Previously on Best Ball Breakfast. If I were you guys, I'd start sprinkling in a little Jawar Jordan at the end of your drafts in case another Joe drops out of the race.
Getting a referral code without actually having one. That's amazing.
So every draft is a wide receiver avalanche.
I've got some grievances there. This guy made me change my name. I used to just be Pat.
If Ertz is your suggestion, I take back the crowdsourcing.
Oh, Pete, I think you're muted.
Pete.
Sorry, Shawn, I was muted there.
Do Nico Collins. I know Karain loves the Texans.
7:20 late night punt. The fabled Hawk Tua draft.
I am currently dying of hypothermia, is all I'll say,
Good.
from the wide receiver avalanche. Pitts.
Fuck!
The Crane pick, Jaylen Warren.
Shark King Summer, dude.
ADP isn't real, man. Can I sign a one-day contract with Roto-World? Actually, no, an indefinite contract. But I am going to quit one day later. Well, do you know the only reason that deal got done is because they jettisoned Denny off to Greece? And today on Best Ball Breakfast, we got 4 more Best Ball Mania 5 drafts on tap. As usual, I'll be rocking a solo draft here at the 10 a.m. slot. Next up, we have RotoViz's Shawn Siegele swinging by. And then, of course, the main, the champ himself, Pat Karain, the winner of BBM3 in the noon slot. And then our special guest today, it's none other than Doodle. I'm not allowed to say the word cooter. I heard that is going to get the channel flag, so we are just going to refer to her as Doodle. She will be joining us for the final draft today. It's Best Ball Breakfast. I'm Pete Overzet. Let's do it. Previously, my slow draft rooms are so much different than my streamed drafts.
Does no one realize Underdog's half-point PPR? Idiots!
Damn, bro. You know ball. Hope you guys packed your bags. I packed my bags. No, I mean, I literally packed my bags.
Dude, Star Method's legit. Only way to max out every contest in a plus EV way.
Week 17, you still gotta get there, bro.
We have a finite sample. We only have so much samples. Is it negative EV to stream all your drafts? We just don't know. All right, GMs all around. This actually blows my mind. I know I always see the 50 days, 40 days until football, but seeing that there's football on Thursday is absolutely wild. Our final Best Ball Breakfast of July, turning that calendar over to August, feels crazy. I mean, I remember in the spring, I made the video over on the Deposit Kingdom channel about how to attack the Best Ball Mania contest, and I kind of broke it up by month. You know, what we do when the contest opens there, late April, early May, what we do in June, what we do in July. And now the fact that we're all the way to August, you know, we're actually going to get to start talking about scroll the F down guys who haven't been drafted in the majority of these contests. It's the final push, and I'm very excited. Cooking up a lot of videos in the lab over on the Deposit Kingdom channel. We'll, of course, be doing a ton of streams here. Might even add a Best Ball Breakfast or two down the home stretch. I think that could be fun. So, yeah, we're ready to lock in. The GMs are flying. Jacob's trying to fill a sprint. What is up, JJFC? Ooh, Starkindler coming off a 10-day drafting cleanse. I appreciate that. I mentioned that earlier in the offseason where I hadn't been doing a ton of slow drafts. I was basically only drafting on stream. And I found myself looking forward to every draft with so much intensity just because I hadn't been constantly drafting. Now, I will say I am now constantly drafting. I've been deep in the weekly winner streets. That has been my go-to right now. That contest is filling at a very fast rate. I think just that $10 price point has everyone intrigued relative to, the $25 for Best Ball Mania. And I teased this last week, but the show we did with Michael Chang on Best Ball After Dark, where he just basically shared the answers to the test on how to attack weekly winners and why it's such a massive edge, it really got the wheels turning. And so I've been devoting most of my drafting free time right now to weekly winners. But yeah, we are going to be getting in the mix with a ton of different contests here. I actually haven't done my Bulldog yet. Been keeping that one in my back pocket. That's the new $75 single entry contest. Underdog launched a couple of those, the Core G. I did that one over the weekend. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Underdog has in store for us. I got to imagine we're going to get the Chow Chow types, maybe like a like a $50 10 max. That was one of my favorite contests last week. So we got to stay fresh. We got to stay energized. Lots of drafting to do here. Yes, we do have Miss Doodle swinging by today at 1 p.m. Eastern. One of my favorite people in the industry, the funniest person in the fantasy space, does a ton of great work for us over at Fantasy Life. She joined me for the marathon stream to close out my 150 stream draft challenge last year, but we're not waiting until the end. We had to bring on Miss Doodle here today. We got a first time live here. John Mark says, have watched a ton of these, but first time joining live. Welcome, welcome. We will be here for the next 4 hours. GMs all around. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I got to go to the beach. That was nice. Did a couple cardio club drafts, all of that good stuff. And now we're back in the battle station, ready to get rolling here. This is going to be my 88th Best Ball Mania draft. I would say it was my Des Bryant draft before he got canceled by Fantasy Twitter. But it is my 88th. What's a better 88th? Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas. Lots of great 88s over the years. I still think it's the most aesthetically pleasing wide receiver number. Like that to me is quintessential wide receiver. You rock the 88. None of this teen stuff. Give me the 2 8s, the infinity symbols, and you're ready to body some people for touchdowns. All right, I hopped in this draft. We are going to be off to the races. I did tip you guys off in the Discord for anyone who wants to join. Look at this. Normally these drafts snap fill. If you want to come and snipe me, there's 2 spots left. So don't ever complain to me, Pete, I can't get into your stream drafts. They fill too fast. Guess what? Now's your chance. Now's your chance to get into one of these. I basically never have to wait to fill these. So everybody's feeling a little apprehensive this morning, apparently. All right, we're full now. We're full. All right, draft 88, the 1-6 here. We do get some friends and families. We got Biff Tannen. We got Snatch Catchers. We got MP. I'm at the 1-6. We got Jake Twitch. We got ATX Bearcat. We got JGFC. Got to watch out for that guy. JGFC, how stoked are you on the Deneric Prince news? You got to be so stoked on the Deneric Prince news. All right, we got Bieber Boom Empire is at 5. Realized my headphones were almost dead, and I don't need them for this draft. I need them for my other drafts. So we're going to be without the headphones. You're at, man, 0 Deneric Prince for you? I think he's close to being on the menu. I will say we're doing our over on Ship Chasing. We've hopped in our first high stakes draft of the year, and Deneric Prince is already off the board, and we are not even to the 15th round. So yeah, it's go get your guy season. And Deneric Prince, as you would say, JGFC, he's a riser, baby. I don't know if you actually say it in that voice, but yes, he is a riser, baby. I think I'm doing it in the Dick Vitale, like diaper dandy voice, but for he's a riser. All right, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson going 1-4 here. I am really light on Amon-Ra. I've been actually hoping to be in spots to get more Amon-Ra. This is right at ADP. You can see here I have in the Draft Caddy overlay, I've added my percentages. Try not to let it influence me too much. There are some spots I do want to, break some ties away from certain players. But in round 1, this has just been kind of an accidental thing. I got a ton of Justin Jefferson early, which has me light on Amon-Ra. So we'll have him come on down and boost that 3.6% Amon-Ra. I think it's time to pour some coffee. We got some good questions in the chat, and we will have ourselves a lovely friends and family Best Ball Mania draft this morning. Where's Casey? This is how I summon Casey out of the woodwork, right when I'm about to get the pour. Keep some coffee in the chamber. Got a full pot ready to go today. Man, yeah, this one's such a bummer. I'll bring it up with Shawn because I know Shawn has still been very, at least initially, I haven't talked to him since the injury and the just absolutely brutal Dennis Allen quote. I mean, if you guys didn't, I included it in the Fantasy Life newsletter. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Dennis Allen was like, it's hard to make the team from the training room or whatever he said, which is pretty concerning. Like we're talking about, or we're wanting Kendre Miller to potentially be, in a committee, have a chance to win this job. And now Dennis Allen is talking about him not even making the team. I have basically put the entire Kendre drafting bit on pause. Like I want to see where his ADP bottoms out. I'm not touching him right now. Let me see how much I actually have of Kendre. I don't think I'm way overloaded on him. 10.7%. So, slightly overweight. Is it ideal? No. Is it disastrous? No. But yeah, he continues to fall here a good bit. And yeah, it's a bummer. If you have decent bags, I would chill out. If you had zero and now you get some cheap shares, I think that sounds pretty nice. I know some people were really light on Jordan Addison and now have been packing some bags there. That seems like a sharp way to play it. Let's see here. I did the Jonathan Taylor thing last week. Let's go ahead and do Jaylen Waddle. I do like Jonathan Taylor. I want to feel out this room here for a hot sec, see if they maybe push me another running back that I like at 30 or not. Basically, I've been just kind of mixing up my running back detours. Grab a Jonathan Taylor here, grab an Etienne Kyren here, grab a Pacheco Etienne in the fourth. But Barkley goes here at 23. Barkley's generally the canary in the coal mine as far as like what the running back room is going to be like. But yeah, the Kendre stuff is it's a bummer. It's not the death knell for him, but it's pretty close. It feels very bad. Wow, I get a 7 out of 10 because I clinked the mug on the coffee pour. I guess this is, the Olympics are on. You guys are all observing these judges. I guess I need to step up my game. Let's see here what J Beer does. HN goes at 28. Neighbors off the board. Metcalf, Evans, Kyren. Man, I was going to grab a Kyren share there. I'm not taking Henry at ADP. This could be a Diggs or DJ Moore team. We got, I've been trying to prioritize week 16 correlation a little bit more. Trying to break ties in that, just knowing how much of my portfolio is tilted toward week 17. We got a Chicago-Detroit matchup there in week 16. So we'll go ahead and add DJ Moore to the squad. Start with 3 wide receivers: Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jaylen Waddle, and DJ Moore. This is a good question, though. Who are you bullish on that you were bearish on before? There's definitely some guys, and I just need to rack my brain on it. I honestly think I guess it's weird to say like bearish because I wasn't necessarily bearish on Pacheco and Etienne. I just wasn't clicking them a lot. So I guess my exposures would reflect bearishness. It was more that I was just constantly grabbing those wide receivers there. And I've been trying to get more of those guys at the 4 or 5 turn, which has allowed me to try to push some of my elite tight end exposure to George Kittle and Kyle Pitts, who are often falling, and I can get them back in the 6th round as opposed to just being so overloaded on Andrews and McBride. So I think that would be an example of, some guys I'm a little bit more bullish on right now. If someone else comes up as we go through the draft room, I will call it out. But yeah, I am trying to be nimble as far as, taking in this news and being open to things I wasn't necessarily open to before. What's up? John Jackson becoming a YouTube member. John is actually going to be our guest on Best Ball After Dark this week. I believe we have that booked for Saturday evening at 8 p.m. John has been doing lots of great data research on his newsletter, has been looking at, I think a really cool way to look at ADP as far as like ADP velocity, trying to guess the guys who are going to continue to rise. He's also been doing some stuff trying to find the sweet spot for the scroll the F down candidates as well. So we'll have fun talking with John about best ball data and, of course, defending his, was it the slow puppy or the fast puppy that you won, John? It was one of the puppies. We are back on the clock here. And lo and behold, I had just talked about getting my Etienne exposure. He's right here at ADP, or I guess Pickens is the slight faller at ADP. In my ranks, I have Etienne here. Let's get a little Etienne, unless I guess there is some correlation with Amari. But I just said how I've been wanting to boost my Etienne exposure. So we'll go ahead and grab him here at 4.7. This feels like a tough room in that we're not getting a ton of ADP values. We do see JGFCs take Pacheco at 39. I was kind of liking to feel out the room, see like, is this going to be a room where you're going to get some of these running backs falling around past ADP, which definitely happens around here at times, but doesn't appear to be the case this morning. So we start Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, and Travis Etienne. Back to the Kendre stuff. This is the stuff I struggle with. D. Owen says, is it time to hedge the Kendre bags with Williams in the 18th? I think I'm a little more willing to just take the L. Honestly, if you want to hedge it, I think it's getting back into Kamara. I think that's probably the better way to hedge it. I mean, we know what Jamal Williams is. We know Jamal Williams at this stage of his career is like very replaceable. I think, I think it's like doubling down on Jamal Williams might be a two wrongs don't make a right kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'd be more inclined to sprinkle in some Kamara if you're really worried about it. And I mean, I've been doing that a little bit with Rashad White. Bucky Irving is one of my most drafted players. I've been mixing in Rashad White past ADP. I've been loading up on Rashad White in weekly winners as a way to kind of balance that out and play, Rashad White through the beginning of the season angle over there. I think you could do that kind of logic with weekly win or with Eliminator as well. Yeah, Frankie. So the exposures that are up on the screen, I do have those limited to just BBM, just because that's what I'm streaming on here and is probably, I thought, the most kind of illustrative. But yeah, it's not reflective of my, 200 plus total drafts. We are on the clock here. By ADP, we're looking at Josh Jacobs. James Cook is also in the mix here for me. I select a ton of Jaden Reed as well. Kyle Pitts is here. I'm trying to see if we have any kind of correlation stuff. Let's, I have been, the dead zone guys are the ones I've been trying to boost. I'm only at 3.6% James Cook. So we'll do a Travis Etienne James Cook here. This is like a spot of the draft where when I'm in autopilot mode, I have a fourth wide receiver. I'm taking Jaden Reed or Xavier Worthy, and then I'm taking one of the tight ends, at 43. Trey McBride did go early in this draft. Kelsey went ahead of me. So kind of mixing up my builds in this 4th, 5th round range, which do feel a lot like, all right, what is the luxury pick you're going to make? Are you going to be making your elite tight end? Are you going to get your elite quarterback? Are you going to grab a second running back potentially? And then knowing how I build in rounds 1 through 3 or how I build in rounds 6 and 7 is normally going to be a little bit more driven by kind of positional tiers. I definitely find myself in round 6 and 7 grabbing the last of those wide receivers that are available a good bit. So just trying to mix up and build teams around, like starting a team with Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore. That's very much how I would like to build. And then building different types of teams around what would otherwise be a chalk start for me with 3 wide receivers. And this is something that we talked about specifically with Jacob Sanderson on the Deposit Kingdom video. Got a lot of good feedback on that. Basically Jacob's thesis was specifically targeting some of these dead zone backs like Etienne, like Pacheco, like James Cook, like Kenneth Walker, and seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And, if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver, and seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out rooms a little later at wide receiver. And seeing if you could build out r that had the firepower to kind of take advantage of this. And I am kind of glad I did this. I mean, Jayden Reed falls a lot in this room. Rome falls a lot. Now, this is a fun spot here where generally my temptation is to take George Kittle. I'm trying to think what potentially, but I think this is a spot I maybe let go. Do I let go of George Kittle because I already took 2 running backs here? I'm going to grab DeAndre Hopkins right at ADP, opposite Etienne in week 17. I'm actually kind of light Hopkins, which surprised me because I was taking a lot of him in the big board, only at 4.8%. But we have that correlation here with Etienne, and getting a 4th wide receiver, I think, was prudent and will push me into a different pocket here for tight end. So this is kind of thinking about, like, again, I love prioritizing elite tight end, but I think there were scenarios here where Ridley, Watson, JSN, all of these guys come off the board. And I think I end up liking my teams where I have this 4th wide receiver here more than having Kittle and then really having to scramble at wide receiver 4. Wow. Aaron here says Kendre went undrafted in one of the BBMs yesterday. I mean, that's wild, but I certainly believe it. I believe it. Zero Kyron shares. Yeah. That would scare me at these prices. What am I at though? I mean, I don't have a ton. 2.4. Yeah. So I'm a little scared. He's definitely a priority for me down the stretch to pack some bags here in the 3rd round. Yeah. Chase Brown hype is certainly building, all of the beats and the reporting. You know, there's a difference between like the Denver stuff we were talking about last week where they're like, yeah, Javonte might be on the roster bubble versus being like Chase Brown is taking the majority of the reps with the first team. And a lot of the beat reporting has reflected that they seem to want to give Chase Brown the first crack. Now, the other interesting thing about that report, and we got to steal man our favorite takes here because I love Chase Brown, but they said Zach Moss, that they brought him in for pass protection, was an updated report there. Man, I wish I could have the Kittle pick back because Ladd falls here past ADP to 78. I like him as a wide receiver 5. I think in a perfect world, I would have gone Kittle and then had Ladd as my wide receiver 4. But there were no guarantees that I was going to get one of these wide receivers to come back. So here's our team now through 7. Etienne and JCook at running back. Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, and Ladd McConkey. Certainly looking at a 3 quarterback build, probably a 3 tight end build. One thing that's nice is I have a ton of stacking partners. All 5 of my wide receivers have quarterbacks available. Jared Goff, Tua, Caleb Williams, Will Levis, and Justin Herbert. So that's going to set me up to be able to pick off some stacks there. And otherwise, I think it's just going to be getting creative at tight end is going to be the challenge here. Tim saying, seeing more of the best ball community coming around to the idea that Rome will be the Bears wide receiver you need. Yeah, I've seen some of that chatter as well. What are your thoughts that Rome is still undervalued? I guess I agree that Rome could absolutely be the Bears guy you need. I don't think you have to squint too hard to see that outcome. And yet I also think he's like close to being properly valued. I guess what you could say is like, I do think some of these 5th round wide receivers are overvalued. You know, Godwin, Terry McLaurin. I think if you wanted to flip some of those guys, Hollywood, who normally goes in the 5th round, like give me Rome over Hollywood, give me Rome over Godwin, give me Rome over McLaurin. So yeah, I guess maybe I do fully agree with that take that Rome is a little undervalued. And I think getting the 3rd pass catcher, the cheapest one on that Bears team and potentially the most talented is a pretty exciting proposition. What am I at Rome wise in BBM? I'm at 7.1%. So maybe I need to start clicking him more to reflect that bullishness. Brock Bowers comes off the board. JGFC was not going to let me get him. He takes him 10 picks ahead of ADP, but we're going to be entering into a sweet spot at running back here to grab our third running back. We'll see what Jake Twitch does, and then we will grab likely either Jaylen Warren or Jonathan Brooks. Jaylen Warren goes. This feels pretty clearly like a Jonathan Brooks pick to me. Zamir White has a slightly higher ADP, but when I have Etienne and Cook, I want to keep taking big cuts. I want to keep buying as much Brooks as I can. I've heard that he's slipping a little bit in rooms on the pup news, not a ton. Been seeing some screenshots of him maybe in like the mid 90s and stuff. So I'm going to continue to pack Jonathan Brooks bags. I think he fits in just so many builds, 0 RB builds, hyper fragile builds, whatever you want to call this, my hyper dead zone build, Etienne, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks. I mean, this is basically kind of the Sanderson build here. I do wish I could have Kittle on this team. I think it gives me just way more flexibility to build. It's hard for me to find 3 tight ends I like. I guess if I look at this team, Waddle, if I go Tua, that could open up Jonnu, DJ Moore with Kmet, Hopkins with Chig. There's some stuff we can do here. And the tight ends have been going. I've been open to obviously Bowers. I was going to see if Ingram came back. He did not. That's when I took Ladd. Ferguson comes off the board at 88. Maybe we get a little Njoku fall here. But I guess we're just going to be in a spot where we're not going to, when I miss out on the elite tight ends, I'm not like, I think the mistake you make is like pushing up one of these second tier guys ahead of ADP because you're like, you want the coziness of the quasi elite tight end. So I'm not going to like pull up guys too much. Njoku does go here at 99. Like I'm not going to pull up Dallas Goedert, to pick 102 because I feel naked at tight end. This is kind of an interesting spot coming up here. My team so far, no quarterbacks, no tight ends. We got our 3 running backs, Etienne, Cook, Brooks, our 5 wide receivers, Amon-Ra, Waddle, DJ Moore, Nuke, and Ladd. This might be a spot. Yeah, so Jaden Daniels comes off the board. I think, Caleb Williams is a decent bit past ADP. Maybe because I have so many quarterback options, I push it once more and grab another running back in this range. Maybe we buy the Zach Moss dip here a little bit. I think we do that. Let's go ahead and grab Zach Moss here as our running back 4. Like I was saying about that report, I think it was very encouraging for Chase Brown because there was more uncertainty about like how the team viewed Chase Brown. We were all very excited about Chase Brown because of his athleticism, his explosiveness. But if it was one of those things where the team's like, yeah, we don't really fully trust you as our back, and you're just going to be a breather back for Zach Moss, like that wouldn't have shocked us, or it shouldn't have shocked us if the team felt that way. So getting the confirmation that they want Brown to be a bigger part of their running game, I think is exciting. But the tea leaves to that report too were that Zach Moss still might have a lock on a lot of the high value touches. Like if he's the pass down back and he's the goal line back, I mean, both of these guys can, I think, have incredibly fantasy friendly roles. And so to me, the way to interpret that report was to nudge Chase Brown up your ranks, but it wasn't necessarily to push Zach Moss down. I think both of them are awesome picks. And so if the market is going to react by pushing Chase up while also pushing Zach Moss down, I just don't think those 2 ADP moves have to be mutually exclusive. I think Zach Moss can stay put and Chase Brown can come up. I mean, it's what we're doing with the Steelers running backs, right? Like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris going right next to each other. Why is this that different? The Zach Moss and Chase Brown. So I just think Chase should move up next to Zach Moss. And if people are going to push Moss down because of this, and look, Chase Brown goes 1 pick after I take Zach Moss here. So yeah, I have no problem buying the dip on Zach Moss at pick 102. All right, about to pick here at 113. Some other running backs come off the board. Javonte, Tajay Spears. Ooh, interesting. I thought Jake Twitch was going to snipe me on Caleb Williams there. because he has Rome. I think this is the spot I grab Caleb to pair with DJ Moore. I also don't want to just keep pushing and pushing quarterback and then all of my stacks are obliterated because I am likely going to be getting to 3 here. So we lock up Caleb Williams just a little bit past ADP, but paired with DJ Moore here, I think is the pick. There were no huge other values. We didn't get a Spears fall. We're in that range where, you know, Josh Palmer, Dontavian Wicks had come off the board right before me. So to me, pretty clearly a quarterback pick there. Joey B, a new member, welcome. As a reminder, you guys who are members, you get a few perks. You get the weekly Best Ball After Dark streams. I've been yapping about that show with Michael Chang a couple weeks ago. Last week, we had Nick Ercolano from BDGE. Lots of fun conversations, more like inside baseball, talking about the business stuff he's done, kind of scaling the trivia channel that they've built over at BDGE, and, you know, things he's thinking about both kind of from an entrepreneurial standpoint and also from a content standpoint. So if you like those kind of conversations, check out last week's episode. And like I said, Best Ball After Dark with John Boy Beats this week. We'll keep those running weekly. In addition, when you guys become YouTube members, you get access to the Best Ball Breakfast channel in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. That's a premium channel, and that's where I tip you guys off when I hop in these drafts. So if you're looking to get tipped off, you sync your YouTube account with your Discord account, and then you will be able to see those announcements in there. All right, we are on the clock. This draft is cooking pretty good here. Let's see here. What do I want to do? Wide receiver is definitely getting a little thinned out. I'm going to put Jalen Polk. We have a couple of correlations with Polk, which is interesting to me. We get week 16 opposite Cook, week 17 the Chargers. Trey Benson as a faller is interesting, but with these 4 running backs, I think I want to grab another wide receiver I like here. It is slightly ahead of ADP, but looking at my potential correlations and that there's a ton of quarterbacks here, I think grabbing that extra wide receiver there makes sense. It also gives me another path to the Drake May, the Hunter Henry, and I do need tight end options late on this team. So we're going to add Jalen Polk. He is a guy I've been wanting to get a little bit more of. I'm only at 9.5%. That seems maybe a little less than where I would ideally like to be. I think he's been a product of, I start so many teams with 5 or 6 wide receivers, you know, through 7 or 8. I'm often grabbing the running back in this spot. Like the number, like look at my Zach Charbonnet exposure, 21.4% at the nearly identical ADP as Jalen Polk. It's like I'm always clicking Zach Charbonnet there. I want to make sure I got some teams where I am getting some Jalen Polk. Although all the buzz on X yesterday was about Javon Baker. I guess he was having an awesome camp. Although it was the classic like whiplash reports where it's like, I think it was 2 days ago, they're like, Baker's incredibly raw, has a long way to go. And then yesterday the reports were like, no one plays with the tenacity of Javon Baker. He's just on a different level for attacking the ball or whatever. So the classic whiplash of reporting we get with these rookies. Matt, I just highlighted, do you have a video going over your weekly winner strategy? My strategy is what a Princeton data scientist laid out for us for weekly winners. So that's the Michael Chang Best Ball After Dark episode from 2 weeks ago. He literally shows you all the research, points out just massive edges in that contest. So yes, that's the sell job. Become a YouTube member, watch the Michael Chang episode, and you will feel very good about what you're doing in weekly winners. Deontay Johnson starting to rise. Yeah. That Canales quote, right? I mean, Canales went to the podium and basically said, we're building our entire offense around Deontay Johnson. I think that'll do it. I do think we're going to see more like a press conference steam this year. I mean, our guy Coach Speak has been so good at curating those clips. All right. So this is an interesting spot. Jared Goff goes, Trevor Lawrence is a pretty insane value here. I only have him with Etienne. I do always, like all things equal, prefer the the quarterback with the pass catcher as opposed to the running back, but I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence here. I mean, this is almost a full 20 picks past ADP. I actually don't think Lawrence with Etienne is that bad of a correlation, especially if Etienne, hits in a massive way, it is going to be because they get him involved in the passing game a little bit more than they did last year. They don't have even if they force Tank Bigsby into being a thing, Tank Bigsby doesn't profile as some incredible pass catcher. Oops. So yeah, I don't mind that Etienne Lawrence correlation. And that's one where it's I'm not going to seek it out. But if the room wants to give me Trevor Lawrence at pick 139, I will do it. And Herbert, Tua were still on the board. Those guys were certainly in play as well. But we'll grab our second quarterback here. Hi, Pete. Can we expect more main event minisodes soon? Yes, I'm going to post one on the Ship Chasing channel later this afternoon. I've basically been doing about every other day. So yes, if you guys don't know what we're referencing, over on Ship Chasing, we're in our first high stakes draft of the year. And Pat, Gretch, and I are hopping on the clock and talking through some of our decisions. And I've been trickling those out for YouTube members. So yeah, the next one is going to come out today. That'll be on episode or round 6 and 7. Lots of good questions in the chat today. How are we handling players like Rome in weekly winners? He's a different bet and the position is very different, but it's hard to pass on a player you like so much when he's cheap. Yeah, I've struggled with that because you can get some pretty cheap rookie prices in weekly winners. I haven't been doing a ton of Rome. I'm kind of making exceptions for the guys who I feel good have a path to immediate volume. So I'll do Neighbors, I'll do Polk. I haven't done as much Rome in weekly winners. Man, I can't keep up with the chat today. I'm way behind. I'm scrolling. What's up, Tyler? 400 plus watching YouTube, but less than 100 likes. Smash the damn button. Yes, please refresh, boost those likes, hit the subscribe. We're here every Monday, 4-hour streaming blocks on Best Ball Breakfast. And now we are on the clock. Tua doesn't come back. I was hoping that maybe Cole Kmet would come back. Biff Tannen takes him at 145. This feels like it could be a Musgrave pick. I do think I need to start grabbing some tight ends. I can't fully punt this. I think Musgrave is a pretty good tight end one option at this point. He's a little bit past ADP. Certainly would have preferred Kmet correlated with Caleb Williams. But I have no problem taking Musgrave there, especially because I am often taking, I click a lot of Jaden Reed, like everyone else and their grandma. I like Dontavian Wicks. So nice to get some Musgrave shares cheap when possible. So here's the team so far through 13 rounds. Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Our running backs, Travis Etienne, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks, and Zach Moss. Our wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk. We still have a decent amount of stuff we can do with kind of tight end and stacks. The other option I could have done was taking Hunter Henry over Musgrave. Henry does go a couple picks later. Could have set up that, double stack with Drake May. I just prefer Musgrave in a vacuum to Henry. I think Henry's solid on those May teams, but if we're actually getting a breakout tight end here late, I think it's going to certainly be Musgrave over Henry here. Let's see. Nick says a bunch of us in the Ship Chasing Discord are doing a big dog, and we're in the 5th round discussing Christian Kirk versus Keenan Allen yesterday. Where do you land on that? That's an interesting one, especially because Christian Kirk normally isn't available in the 5th round. Tell me who you had with your first 3 picks. All right. This draft is whipping along here at a good clip. We are about to be on the clock again. Looking at ADP here. Let's see. So thinking about my quarterback stuff, I am running out. I guess we have the Levis and Drake May stuff available. I think this is probably going to be a one more running back pick. We still have some of our kind of late tight end stuff available. Let's take our last running back here. I think this is Jaylen Wright. I feel really good about these first four: Etienne, Cook, Brooks, Zach Moss. We have Jalen Waddle. Let's just take a big swing at running back 5 and add Jaylen Wright to the squad. He slips, just a little bit past ADP. Certainly some running backs I still like late. Bucky Irving, Estime steaming up the board, Braylon Allen. But I think I'm going to be quarterback and tight ends most of the way here. So we grab Jaylen Wright. I always like the Dolphins too. I know it's just what happened last year, but it's like every single week it was one Dolphins running back, like in the battle royales at the top of the leaderboard. It was either Etienne and Mostert and then either Tyreek Hill or Waddle. Like there were so many weeks where Miami running back, Miami wide receiver were the nuts. So I will try to recreate that magic in 2024 with a Waddle and Wright pairing. Hoosier says, I've made way too many spreadsheets after watching that Best Ball After Dark. Yeah, I've started to try to put together my own weekly winners ranks based on that episode. Lots of praise for that episode here. Got some new YouTube members going to check it out. What is up? Hayden becoming a YouTube member. Shout out Hayden. Does a ton of great data diving with the Underdog data over on the Underdog YouTube channel. All right, I'm back on the clock here. I think we just pull up. I didn't end up getting Tua. I do think Jonnu and just stacking up. Or do we set up the Will Levis thing? Maybe this is the chance to set up the Levis. I do not have a ton of Levis. I'm almost always doing like the Drake May thing here. Let's get some Levis here. This is at ADP. We'll see if Chig comes back, but we do have Hopkins. Kind of use my Hopkins pick as an excuse to get a little bit more Levis. Like, what am I at Levis-wise percent? It's pretty low. 6 isn't bad. And then what am I at like Drake May? 13%. Uh-oh. Jacksonville and Tennessee versus each other in week 17. That's a no-no. All right, circling back to the SC decision, and the Bulldog started CMC, Debo, Ayuk, wow, and Andrews. Yeah, I probably go Kirk there. I do love Keenan, but I think Kirk there, just taking the ADP value. Do I ever go Chuba and Brooks? I honestly don't. I don't have a problem with it per se, especially if you get Chuba really cheap. I think they're now priced at a point where I don't think it's bad. The other one that's priced similarly that I never do either, like I don't think I've done Ramondre and Antonio Gibson together much, but with how cheap the running back 2 is, I don't think it's super bad. I'm just being sarcastic here. No Name says, what's wrong with Jags and Titans versus week 17? This was a random Best Ball Twitter discussion from last year, or maybe it was the year before. I don't know. We have the same conversations every year. It was about how it was maybe slightly suboptimal to have 2 quarterbacks going against each other in week 17. The idea being you want to give yourself as many chances at an outlier game environment. And if you have the 2 quarterbacks from that same game, you're removing an opportunity to get a crack at another outlier game environment. Apologies for if I'm bastardizing that GTO element, but I think ultimately it's such a marginal thing. And where we settled was that would be a very good problem to have. That would be a really nice problem to have, that you showed up in week 17 and I'm like, oh shucks, I got Will Levis and Trevor Lawrence in the same game. I think maybe too, it's a little bit more of an issue if you only have 2 quarterbacks. When you have 3 quarterbacks, anyways, I was just making a joke and I apologize. I should never make a joke. Let's see here. I do think we just do Chig. I mean, Jonnu's sliding a ton, but with the Will Levis, I would prefer to double stack Levis. Is this my first Chig share in BBM? Is that true? I've certainly selected him in some other contests, but according to my overlay, this is my first Chig share. All right, there we go. Chig. So we get Will Levis double stacked. So why 3 quarterbacks with this build? I hear what you're saying. Caleb and Trevor Lawrence probably roll with 2 there. I don't think that I am behind at basically any position. The question is, well, where are you going to put that other spot? And you could say, well, we know we're doing 3 tight ends for sure. But you could say, why 6 running backs with this build? If I had a 6 running back, I'm certainly going to have 1 more wide receiver. You could say, well, why 8 wide receivers with this build? You took, 5 in the first 6 or first 7 rounds. So when you have that extra pick, the thing that I like to break ties in favor of is the best way to combat the elite quarterbacks in the playoff gauntlet. And Leone's manifesto research has done a really good job of illustrating this, is having all 3 quarterbacks stacked up. If you get that 3rd quarterback and you're able to stack up that 3rd quarterback, it's a really big edge in the way the Best Ball Mania pod dynamics work. And the Leone Sims and kind of the data from the previous 2 BBM sets reflect what a huge advantage it is when you have that 3rd quarterback stack. So I'm always prioritizing the late quarterbacks, if I don't have one of the top 10 guys to get them all stacked up. All right, let's see here. Man, tight ends really got wiped. I think maybe I just rip it in. I think I'm going to rip it in on this Tennessee stack. If I'm going to do the Will Levis thing, let's do the Will Levis thing. Let's take Tyler Boyd here as our 7th wide receiver. So then we'll do the triple stack there: Will Levis, Chig, and Tyler Boyd. And this is something I've talked about too, where when you do the dead zone running backs, when you do the multiple detours, one of the best ways to build out a wide receiver room is through heavy correlation. And my temptation is I often get distracted. I'm like, give me Troy Flankin here. Give me Javon Baker here. Give me, this guy here. And then you're spread out. When actually what's more likely to happen is one of the Broncos, the Patriots, the Titans, the Panthers are the smash offense. They're this year's Texans. They're last year's, Jags or whatever, the team that breaks out. And so I'd rather just make a big concentrated bet there. And instead of having to pinpoint exactly which good player on a bad team emerges, I just say, what if it is the Titans? And now we just need to add a 3rd tight end here. So here's the team through 17 rounds: Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis at quarterback. Our running backs: Travis Etienne, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks, Zach Moss, and Jaylen Wright. Our wide receivers: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, and Tyler Boyd. And then our tight ends: Luke Musgrave and Chig Okonkwo. So definitely feeling weaker at tight end than I normally do, which is what's going to happen when I normally am taking a top 7 tight end or a Brock Bowers type. But I think I like how this team played out. Let's see if we can find a tight end we like here. Cut the joke so we can actually enjoy the show. People had so much fun with the RotoPat show last week where we were just doing bits, essentially for an hour, that I said, we got to bring that back. We balance our range on this show. We get down to brass tacks with Shawn, and then we're going to loosen up at the end there with Cooter Doodle. All right, I continue to like Mike Gesicki. The camp reports have been pretty positive here. To me, this would be between like a Jatavian Sanders or a Gesicki, but I have a decent amount of correlation here with Gesicki. I also have Zach Moss. To me, he's a nice 3rd tight end here. No overlapping bye weeks. Let's go ahead and bring Mike Gesicki on down here to land this plane. I was looking at Dulcich. He's someone that's getting a little bit of buzz. He could have been Oppo, the Zach Moss thing, but he went to Jake right before me. The other tight ends available on the board, you're looking at Colby Parkinson, Dawson Knox, Jatavian Sanders, Hayden Hurst, Tucker Kraft, which I wouldn't do with Musgrave, Zach Ertz, Michael Mayer. So I think this is what a 3 tight end room looks like for me. Luke Musgrave, Chig, and Mike. I think we can definitely make that work. Here's the final team. Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, and Will Levis, 3 quarterbacks. We got our 5 running backs, Travis Etienne, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks, Zach Moss, and Jaylen Wright. I like that running back room. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, and Tyler Boyd. And then our 3 tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Chig Okonkwo, and Gesicki. So we got that big Levis bet, a triple stack with Nuke, Tyler Boyd, and Chig. We have that little correlation here with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Wasn't able to get anything else with Jacksonville there. And then we have that Caleb Williams stack with DJ Moore, and then some mini stacks as well. The Jaylen Wright with Jalen Waddle. We get a little mini in week 17 with Ladd and Jalen Polk. So decently correlated team there. Oh, the other one, Zach Moss and Mike Gesicki for a couple other of those teammate correlations there. So all in all, I don't mind this team. I enjoyed clicking the Etienne and James Cook there back-to-back, something I normally don't do in round 4 and 5, and seeing how the rest of that room looked out. And I do recommend, check out that show I did with Jacob Sanderson over on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel. It's pinned in the chat here and also in the description. And he kind of laid out his case for attacking some of these dead zone running backs and then making it work with some concentrated bets on these cheaper offenses. Daniel Raz over at Legendary Upside has made a similar argument, talking about Carolina, Denver, and the Patriots being ways that you could build out a highly correlated, cheap, pass catching room late to basically catch up at wide receiver if you only spent, 3 or 4 through the first 10 rounds or so. No name. Who is your top quarterback and tight end you try to go for? Not saying highest rank, but the one you think is the best value. I did my video over on the Deposit Kingdom where I did my favorite pick in every round. So I think the easiest answer would be for me to say Trey McBride at tight end and Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Those would be the ones where I always feel good when I'm able to get those guys, even kind of outside of typical correlation or stacking stuff. A lot of guys I am trying to get within certain builds, but I would say McBride and Jaden Daniels are a quarterback and tight end that I like basically every which way. Brady has 25% Bo Nix and 25% Greg Dulcich on DraftKings. That is a lot. That is a lot of Greg. Tim says, not going to lie, Pete, this one kind of feels like a winner. Huge upside shots at every position, good stability at running back and wide receiver. If Musgrave, Polk, and Caleb hit, you're cooking with gas. I appreciate that. Nez over here dunking on the Kendre Miller. Speaking of Deposit Kingdom, I am going to be recording with Nez later this evening. We're going to get in the lab, find out Nez's favorite things to do in drafts, and then we will hop in and try to execute them in a Best Ball Mania draft. That video then will get edited and posted on the Deposit Kingdom channel later this week. So look for that on the Deposit Kingdom channel. Looks like everyone's in agreement. If we can get anything from one of these tight ends, it could be a decent team. But that's what happens, right? When you do the punt tight end. I do kind of like Musgrave, you're hoping to get a breakout. Chig, you're just hoping to get a couple of spikes because the Tennessee offense is better than expected. And Gesicki, you're just hoping he falls his way into a couple touchdowns there because the Bengals offense is rolling. Little cook, little chef in the kitchen. Copy paste date says Daniel Jones, the best value and not close. I certainly will hear the argument that he's a value. I do not think I will hear the argument that he's the best and that it is not close. There's just so much late season risk with Daniel Jones. Even if you think that narrative is overblown, you need a lot of things to go right as far as him to just be an absolute smash. I'm betting on it. I take a ton of neighbors. Jalin Hyatt's one of my late clicks. But I think you can make the case that some of those rookie quarterbacks are even more positioned to outperform their ADP. Jaden says, is it possible to take down a large field tourney like BBM with an unstacked elite QB? Absolutely. It's possible to do any of this. And it's especially because a lot of the unstacked elite quarterbacks, if you're talking about Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, because those guys can get it done on the ground, it takes the pressure off of needing to have them stacked. If Lamar Jackson rushes for 100 yards and scores a touchdown on the ground, it's very likely that one of his pass catchers isn't going nuclear, right? There's just going to be less pass attempts. There's going to be less touchdown opportunities if he's hogging so much on the ground. So to me, that is certainly an example of where an unstacked elite quarterback could win. Now, where I still struggle with it is, well, how do you get there? How do you get to the week 17 finals? You still need to finish first in these week 15 and week 16 pods. Could someone go nuclear on the ground for 3 straight weeks? Could a Jaden Daniels, a Lamar Jackson, a Hurts? I could certainly see it, but I think it's a little tighter needle to thread. I would almost want to play it more from the ping-ponging element. Let's use our Jalen Hurts example, and you got him paired with Devontae Smith. Maybe in week 15, it's the Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith week, and they get you to the week 16. But then in week 16, it's like Hurts just takes over and does it on the ground. And then you come back in week 17 and Smith has a good game, something like that. I think it's just a narrower path when you say, I have Hurts unstacked. Is that bad for the regular season? Absolutely not. It's probably even optimal, for the regular season in a way. Maybe not, but it's just way less of a thing when it's spread out over 14 weeks relative to a single week where you really need that correlated spike to help you win a pod. Grow up, Hoosier. If you guys don't know how to behave in the chat when a lady with a first name of Cooter Doodle comes on the show, I can't help you guys. I can't help you. I mean, last week we named a team the Hawk Tua team. That was something that actually happened. Let me name this team here. Looks like I snuck in one BBM draft over the weekend and I didn't name it yet. So many of my Best Ball Mania drafts are on stream or Deposit Kingdom that it's rare that I'm not naming it right after. This is going to be a real surprise. We can all look at this team that I drafted over the weekend in the secrecy of my own home. What was this team? This was a Chicago Jacks Tennessee team. All right, let's see it. Let's see, what was this team? Because it was last week that I had the late night punt that I got, exposed for my 3-4-10-1 build when I fell asleep in a midnight draft. That didn't feel good. This one I don't think was a full punt. Here we go. This is the team. We get to see what I did over the weekend. Jalen Hurts and Tua. Ramondre Stevenson. Oh, I took an unstacked Tua. See, every time I have one of these non-stream drafts, something crazy comes. I guess I did end up getting Tua with Jaylen Wright. There's a Ramondre, James Conner, Zach Charbonnet team. Here's Hurts with AJ Brown, Debo, Diggs, Xavier Worthy, Lockett, Demario Douglas, Franklin, Devontez Walker, Dalton Kincaid, and Dallas Goedert. So there you go. There's my random team I drafted over the weekend. All right. I think it's time that we get the Best Ball Banana Stand cooking. My guest, Shawn Siegele from RotoViz, is here. Let's do it. All right. Welcome to the Best Ball Banana Stand, a weekly crossover show with me and the Pete Overs at YouTube channel, along with Shawn Siegele in the RotoViz airwaves. It is the Best Ball Banana Stand. We hop into Best Ball Mania 5 draft. We navigate crazy rooms. And now we have lots of training camp news to digest and process as we are building out this squad. Shawn, how are you doing today?
Good. It's exciting to have some real NFL news, even if the news we're getting so far is still probably mostly of the questionable variety. But got the RotoViz ADP tool for Underdog pulled up, the risers and fallers, and we do have some pretty significant risers over the last week or so.
Yeah. I I know, some big ones off the top of my head, and I know over on Ship Chasing, they're going to talk about some of those on stream today with ADP chasing, but Nick Chubb, a big riser with some bullishness of how he's been looking at camp. Audric Estime has been a huge riser. Anyone else that has kind of caught your eye from a movement perspective?
Well, you're getting those Chargers players as we get a little bit more sense of how that offense will go. DJ Chark is way up. J.K. Dobbins obviously is up. You're getting some risers and some fallers with the Chiefs, and the Pacheco's up some, Rice is up. And then on the flip side of that, I don't think anybody's hugely surprised that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is down.
Yeah. That was a fun topic of conversation on X the past week. A lot of people debating whether CEH was a good process pick in the middle of the summer. The idea being that we have so much uncertainty, right? With some of these late running backs, do they actually hold the RB2 spot on the team? And you can play with fire a little bit, making that assumption in both directions. And CH was perceived to be like the safe type of pick. The kind of one where you're supposed to feel good about his spot on the depth chart, even if you don't like the talent. And then when that comes into question, then you start to really kind of reassess how you're thinking about all of those late picks. And I think that's probably why you gravitate so much to the talent-based play, even if their spot on the depth chart's a little shakier, because of the moat that talent gives you.
Right. And that, you kind of set me up to mention the Zero RB prep kit, which came out last week, and looked at 5 different components for putting together sort of just the overall board, really, but also then, how we're really zeroing in on the best 15 or so plays as we get to the biggest drafts, and certainly talent, and how that creates a moat, and how these situations on the depth chart can just be so fragile. I think especially when we already know that the back end question is not particularly good. And then that leads into the secondary question that I think, one of the names that I wouldn't be surprised at all if I'm wrong about, obviously with these types of plays, you're wrong all the time, but Trey Sermon is another one of these plays where, I do question if you can really ever create a moat with the talent level that he has demonstrated. And then, do you really benefit from injuries even if the starter goes down, you end up in a very muddled type of committee, which I think is the thing you want to be looking at the guys who are in that second spot are perceived to maybe be clearly in the second spot, but that's not what the reality would be in the season.
Yeah. And that's what's so helpful of thinking through a talent profile, and then what would the backfield look like if there were an injury, because that's such a huge part of it, because there are a bunch of teams now where an injury to the starter, I think, would lead to a pretty gross committee in a way that maybe it's a little different for best ball, where you don't have to guess when to start them. But man, certainly from a managed standpoint, some of these backups, it's like, would you even ever feel good about starting them if the starter went down? That's a pretty good place to start with. Do I want to add this guy to the end of my bench?
Definitely. So,
all right, Shawn, as usual, hopped us in a Ball Mania 5 draft. This is my 89th draft. I got to assume we've done at least about 10 of these together now. We have the 1-9 here, which I feel like is a spot we haven't been in for a while. I feel like we had a lot of early draft slots in July.
We did. We had a lot of, or at least I had, and I think with you as well, a lot of sort of 10, 11, and 12 as things opened up. But thankfully, that's mostly gone away. We have been drafting from the top. It'll be interesting and certainly a challenge, I think, to draft from this spot, which I would argue is probably not particularly good.
Yeah, it definitely, the decisions there, the caliber of player you're getting relative to the top tier in round 1, having to essentially reach on players in round 2 that you think are maybe slightly overvalued, doesn't feel great, but we always play the hand that is dealt to us here. Puka Nacua does come off before Breece Hall. So it looks like the decision would be, do you grab Breece as a slight ADP value, or do you grab an A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson type?
Yeah, I said maybe not a great spot, but that's not true. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, both of those are home run picks. I've got a ton of both. I think that it's kind of fun to draft the running back here. In most drafts, we might lean to the receiver with how the draft might play out, but I don't think you can go wrong with these two guys.
Let's grab Breece. I'm a little under on Breece where I'd like to be, and I think we're going to feel good about the wide receiver. Or I should say, feel good about the wide receiver relative to the running backs available in round 2, 3, and 4. So let's get our anchor here with Breece Hall. I know you and Ben Gratch started with him in your Pros vs. Joes contest the other night that you guys streamed on Gretch's YouTube. We started with Breece Hall in our first main event draft of the year over on Ship Chasing. So always feels good to get Breece Hall at a discount.
Yeah, and when putting together the articles and the thesis on Hall a year ago, I was writing up how, he could be the 2024 101. And obviously he's not there, but what he did really validated that, whole evaluation of him as a player. Things continue to move, very heavily in favor of wide receivers. We've got tons of stuff out on the site on how people are still probably not wide receiver heavy enough. And yet, Breece Hall is the type of player who could easily deliver you a 101 caliber season. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's the most likely thing. I'm not trying to say that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gapped both CMC and Bijan Robinson. Pete, I think you're muted there.
Thank you, Shawn. We're going to have another muting disaster here. No, I was just going to say it is, even with other guys we like who go later, the DeAndre Swifts and the H-Hands, it's hard to see them without an injury or something being the 101. Whereas Breece Hall can just do it with his current setup, with improved quarterback play, what he's done in years past. And what he brings in the passing game is just so exciting. And, trying to put that all together, the passing, the high value touches, the explosive plays, and now hopefully for the first time in his career, an above average offense. It's not hard to see the perfect storm there for him. We are on the clock. Gibbs does slide in this room, looking at Olave, Debo, Waddle, as potential other options. If you want to get funky and try to build out a double running back room, I'll never say no to a good time. But what do you think here?
It is pretty tempting to select Gibbs. I like Olave and Waddle here as well, but man.
Do you want to do Gibbs and see if we can?
Let's
do
see
Gibbs.
What happens. And we always say, let's
right.
see what happens. And then what happens is you got to take a lot of bad players late, which, that's like the cardinal rule is don't take bad players, but it's too fun.
Well, I think this is the talking point. And I was kind of going through this. The draft I just did previously, I did something that I don't do a lot and took running backs in both round 4 and 5. I took Etienne and JCook, wanting to get some more exposure to those guys, often taking a wide receiver, certainly a tight end in round 4. And I think the build ended up working out. I did have to do a late tight end build. To me, like even starting Breece and Gibbs isn't the end of the world. I think the thing that puts the squeeze on is getting that elite tight end. I think once you then take another detour away from wide receiver, if we were in like round 4 or 5, that's when I really feel like the wide receiver room gets fully thinned out. And so how do you think about that? Like, hey, we start 2 running backs. We still know how dominant these tight ends can be as far as our win rates and ability to win this tournament. Is it something you think about sacrificing in this build?
Yeah, I think even when you take that running back in round 1, it cuts against the ability to get those tight ends. I've been trying to pull back a little bit on the double elite tight end simply because, you do end up with a lot of the same players if you're playing that in every draft. There are some structural reasons why it might not work. I think listeners are probably aware of what some of those trade-offs would be. But in those double elite tight end rooms, you end up very, very in the direction of a pure 0 RB play. Once you've started running back, you have effectively taken that off the table. I do also think that there's a potential for it to be a better play to go with McCaffrey and say Achane or Kyren Williams, because in the first half of round 7, there are still palatable receivers, whereas in the back half, there aren't necessarily, and certainly in some of the drafts that you and I do together, we don't tend to see that. But I am excited. One of the things I worked on the last several days, and I kind of had fun with last year. It was a fun piece, but I'm going to have the 4 receivers that can rescue your build if you fall off that wide receiver cliff, and have that out probably this afternoon. And so we'll see if we can get to any of those guys in this draft if we end up needing some additional wide receivers.
That's awesome. I'm excited for that. I was I reread all 3 of Blair's series this morning, actually, on his breakout profile. Specifically looking at second year breakouts, but then also funneled over to another cohort that even breaks out at a higher rate than even year 2 breakouts. I need to message Blair because I would love to kind of make a video about some of his findings there and share a little bit more of that. But just some awesome work there, and like really bringing clarity to on the type of wide receivers you want to be clicking late. And obviously some of the guys people know about, Tank Dell is going to pop up on there. There's no secret on Tank Dell. But some of those late guys, there were some names that certainly piqued my interest that I want to be clicking a little bit more than I have been.
Yeah. And there are some ways that you can deploy that throughout the draft. And I mean, there's a team that I do think, even though, there's sort of a poor man's version of the Texans. And I think you could argue that the Texans are actually still undervalued. And yet there's a very similar team that I think people should really be hammering. And I would expect to see them rise. We have gotten a riser from one of their players, but I don't know. I have a hard time with where some of the names are priced. And so that's fantastic, right? Because as tight as drafts are in 2024, you do want to still feel like there are some opportunities out there.
So we're about to be on the clock in the 3rd round. We, of course, started with Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs. One thing working in our favor, we did see a couple teams double tap running back in round 2 and 3. So we are getting some names pushed down to us that maybe otherwise wouldn't be here. Stefon Diggs at the top certainly looks like a nice click. Anything else you're seeing here?
Diggs, or you just mentioned Dell. I think playing Houston would be the right move. One of those 2 guys.
Yeah, let's just play the ADP game a little bit there. I guess it's pretty unlikely Dell comes back, although I have noticed him slipping a little bit more, relative to where he was going in June. He was just a fixture of round 3. I have seen people kind of a little bit more hesitant in drafts and getting him now more early round 4. So let's take a crack at that. But we start Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Diggs. I was referencing the 2 drafters from the 4 and 5 hole. One went Barkley and Kyron in round 2 and 3. The other went Etienne and Derrick Henry. So that was kind of nice because sometimes you get a little worried about just a run on these wide receivers and you're really having to pull up guys into the 3rd round. I think both of us feel when you click Stefon Diggs at 33, you're not sacrificing or hemorrhaging value at that price.
No, all 3 of the Texans, but especially you're getting better prices on Diggs and Dell. And the more that I look at it, the more I actually think those are probably the 2 highest upside names in the offense. Maybe Collins has a slightly better median projection, and maybe we just get information as training camp develops and as we're working through, how the offense is going to be run, that makes it pretty clear that he's the guy. But you look at the overall profile for Stefon Diggs, I think it's just even still a lot better than people realize. And people know he's been one of the stars of the last 5 or 6 years. But then what Tank Dell did last year when he was healthy too, it's really pretty crazy.
Yeah, and Tank Dell does go, not a surprise going to the Nico drafter, trying to set up that double stack there. I'm still very okay with T here. He looks pretty clearly like the pick.
Yeah, let's go that direction.
Yeah, you do have, is this about where, did Hurts come up in your ranks or has he kind of always been around this range for you? Because he's the other guy that was near the top of your ranks.
No, I think that's going to be about where I have him. He's not actually someone that I'm drafting. And so in some ways, the ranking there reflects how once Higgins is gone, I do think there's a tier break. Although, Amari Cooper accomplishes a lot of things. I think that there are some issues with Cooper and that I don't think he's likely to be a league winner the way that he has been at some moments in the past. And yet, when you look at that break after Higgins and then where Cooper fits into that, certainly there are a lot of things that he can do for most builds that I would argue Andrews, Pacheco, Hurts are probably not accomplishing for you.
Yeah. And I've kind of been reserving a decent amount of my Hurts exposure to my Devontae Smith teams because I would say, I don't know, anecdotally, 1 out of every 4 times that you have Devontae Smith, Hurts will fall all the way back to late round 4. I have a Hurts Devontae Smith team where I got Hurts in the early 5th. And that to me feels like a really potent combo where you're getting him past ADP. You're not sacrificing kind of the large opportunity cost of maybe the early fourth, passing on a guy like a Tank Dell or T Higgins, certainly in the third, and then kind of getting it after a tier break and being able, the team where I was able to sneak in an elite tight end, I think it was a Dalton Kincaid, and then come back and get, Hurts in the fifth. I like leaving myself open to those possibilities, because otherwise, sure, if you take him with AJ Brown, that's great. But I've never liked my teams where I have him kind of unstacked at ADP, and then you grab, Dallas Goedert, and that's kind of the only way to play it.
Yeah, I think one of the things with Hurts for me, though, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously there are more global ways that you can look at it, but in the Underdog Advanced Rate Explorer, you can pull all of these guys up with their stack partners from the previous years. And you can look at how all of those different types of things have played out. And everybody knows this. This is both intuitive and logical and understood. And yet when you go through and actually look at the numbers, you're taking it team by team, it jumps out just how much the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 will either amplify or mute the explosiveness of that QB play. And the more expensive the receiver is, the more he has to do. You're starting to talk about like mid 300 seasons to really move the needle for expensive guys. And so when you're thinking about that as sort of a combined pick and what you're trying to accomplish with your QB, it just helps to have a little bit of room for the receiver to run.
Well, Shawn, we're on the clock here. Looks like best available wide receiver by ranks is Xavier Worthy. Rashid Rice just came off the board. I mean, we pulled up Xavier Worthy pretty early last draft. We get him here at pick 57. Kind of feels like the direction we should go.
Yeah, as long as you're comfortable with him, obviously you'd like the news to be a little bit more positive on his direction. But I think that kind of what you're hoping plays out there is just a slower start with him. And it's interesting because we have Brown, Rice, and Worthy all right in a row. Kind of masks what he's going to eventually do as being the breakout star there. For any of the guys, obviously the big faller, way more than anybody else who is actually fantasy relevant. The big faller over the last week, Pete, very sadly, has been Kendre Miller, where like the coaching staff is, he's awesome, but he needs to be more consistent and he needs to stop getting hurt every play.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to get your take on that, because the Dennis Allen, and I mean, Dennis Allen is probably the most, unforgiving coach, at least with how he frames his words in press conferences, like just completely brutal. And he did not pull any punches when talking about Kendre. It basically said you can't make the team if you're constantly in the training room there. So yeah, Kendre Miller, a huge faller in drafts, certainly a bummer. I did want to ask you, what did you see about Xavier Worthy? Maybe I'm only seeing the highlight clips from training camp. He had this incredible contested catch during like a 7-on-7 drill or whatever yesterday. I've been only seeing rave reviews. Has there been some bearish stuff on Xavier Worthy?
Well, I just want him to be completely okay. And anytime that, you're coming into camp and you're like, there are still, from injuries months ago, we want to take it slowly. Like, no, you want it to be like 100% or 110% or what have you. Worthy is one. It's tough for me because anytime that there is any sort of news relative to that type of thing with someone that I've been that high on, I just want to be careful that I'm not overdoing it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, on the clock, George Kittle is here if we think we can afford it. Rome, Odunze, guys like Hopkins and JSN and Brian Thomas are unlikely to make it back. What do you think?
Well, I think that Kittle with Gibbs is kind of fun, but Odunze also is a very strong pick.
At the last second, I was going to see if I could get Kittle in there, but I think Odunze for this team is probably the better selection for us, just kind of structurally. So we add Odunze as our wide receiver 4 here. I think there is a spot where only 3 wide receivers through the early rounds, and one of them is, Diggs, T, Xavier Worthy, could be a little light if we're heading into like round 11 or 12 with only those 3 guys.
Unless we got some really intriguing fallers, but that,
Yeah.
again, just does not seem likely. Odunze, one of those players who I think you really are almost playing for an injury, and yet there's that potential that because of who the quarterback is, and DJ Moore's price, even though Moore is the combination of experienced and dynamic in a way that Keenan Allen's not dynamic, Odunze is not experienced. But his price when you have a new QB probably doesn't make sense. I think Odunze is overpriced, and yet it allows you to accomplish certain things. I think you have to love the buy that they have. I think you have to really like how the Bears fit within other fun things you want to do with your build. I think that Odunze fits as a guy where you could get that wide receiver QB combined explosion. And so even if there aren't as many points embedded in that pick as you would really like, you see the next 4 names come off the board, and there is either not enough upside or team risks or experience risks on those players as well. I think you probably, fairly strongly prefer Odunze to them, which isn't to say those are bad picks, because again, we're in a range where just the wide receiver firepower is falling off.
Yep. Yeah. So our team here, we do get, we start with these 2 running backs. We knew that was going to put us in a tough spot with some certain decisions. You can easily look and say, all right, you could have flipped, you could have done Olave Kittle, as opposed to Gibbs in Rome. And, I get in these spots too, where I'm like, yeah, do I prefer that other side? Sure. But do I always want to have that other side? Do I want to have a couple teams where if Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back 2 and Breece Hall is the running back 1, I would like to have a team built around that, especially when the room gave us the value. And I always like trying to make it work here in some of these tricky spots, because it can be a little bit more instructive, I think, for people if they do want to try these things. Here's the risks. Here's how it could go wrong. Here's how you could dig out of this avalanche. And that is what we will try to do. I think the biggest conversation topic for this next pick, at least at the start, would be, do we grab CJ Stroud to stack with Diggs if we don't like the wide receivers available? The thought being, the guy behind us who has both Nico and Tank, there's no way he's passing on Stroud twice. I don't know where Stroud fits into your plans, how you view him with Diggs, or if you would want to consider taking like a Jameson Williams or Jordan Addison instead.
Yeah, and this is one of the great things about when you take one of those Houston Texans, you put yourself into that position where the pick in isolation is fantastic, but then you also have this possibility that Stroud really falls. And I think that Stroud doesn't fit what I like to do structurally, but I think he's undervalued.
Yeah, and then Jameson Williams does come off the board. So it would basically be like, to me, because we're not going to be taking a lot of wide receivers in this range, I do want to prioritize some of the other positions. To me, this does feel like a good spot to get Stroud.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
So we grab CJ Stroud here to stack up with Diggs. I think it would have been way more of a, if a guy like JSN, he doesn't really fall much these days. He goes at 76. You still probably prefer JSN structurally for this team, and you let go of the quarterback there. But when your board gets wiped out, even a guy like Jameson Williams, who you're even higher on than market, he goes, it's like, what are we supposed to do other than take the, a potential quarterback 1 stacked up with our first round or our 3rd round wide receiver?
Yeah, it would have been, I think, pretty disappointing if we had taken Kittle especially, and Williams had gone ahead of ADP there, and we had missed on him. With this, Stroud in 7 is one of my favorite plays. So we'll see if that, it's tough when you started running back, right?
Yeah.
For a similar reason that it's tough to get the tight ends that you want. And yet I have visions of a Stroud Diggs season being like Demaryius Thomas and Peyton Manning back in the day.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. It's nice too. When you get that Diggs slide, and sometimes the Tank and the Nico drafters are on the other side of you too. This time they were concentrated in front of us because the drafter pulled up Nico, but sometimes you'd be in a spot where you could push Stroud all the way to 88 because they're behind you, which I've done a couple of times with Diggs. So yeah, I'm certainly taking advantage of it. I know a lot of the kind of projections chatter has been, he doesn't separate as much from Joe Burrow and Dak, but it's like, well, when he's going in the same range as those guys and you're getting them correlated, it's like you're sacrificing nothing at that point.
You think about that Packers Cowboys game, and obviously that, certainly supports, Dak's upside. But just think of how many Texans games could have that vibe this season. How much can go wrong when you were able to support Noah Brown, and now you have what literally could be 3 of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. If you have 3 top 10 wide receivers,
could be fun. All right, Shawn, the decisions here seem like a running back we really like a Ramondre or Brooks. We keep buying Jordan Addison on the dip, or we get our tight end in Bowers because he's not coming back to 105. What do you like?
This is tough because especially with no tight end, Bowers is fun. I just think Jordan Addison, even with a suspension at this price, doesn't. I mean, the Vikings quarterback play will have to be extraordinarily bad for Addison to not work at that price, even if he gets a multi-game suspension.
Yeah. And, part of me is like, when we keep buying the dip on Addison, is that something we want to be doing? And yet we are needing to find escape hatches to a 2 running back start where we also grabbed an elite quarterback. And like Addison is one of those escape hatches of which guy. I mean, we already saw where people were taking him when there were 0 concerns. He was going in the middle of the 6,
which was too low.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because how I've been thinking about it, and I actually want to kind of circle back to the Kendre stuff too, because you get in these spots, Jordan Addison, can obviously continue to mix in. Whereas like Kendre, I think I'm going to have like a bit of a moratorium on seeing where his price bottoms out and now grabbing other guys going in the range he used to that I was a little lighter on. But like, how are you thinking about Kendre relative to the Addison? It seems like you're probably more concerned about the Kendre situation than Addison.
Yeah, because pure zeros just all across the board all season long are very much in consideration now for Miller. And I mean, you go back, you look at what he did when he played last year, which was almost not at all. You look at what he did the reason that he was drafted ahead of the guys he was drafted in that draft, who then exploded, guys like Etienne and Spears, is that he was really good. But at some point you burn your team to the level where they're just fine playing other guys and they have moved along without you. And I mean, these soft tissue injuries, for me, obviously there's a hugely luck-based element to it. It's bad luck when these guys get hurt, but you wonder about the preparation. And even if it's not a preparation thing where they didn't put in the work, then, every week wondering if you're going to get that re-injury. There are enough names that are interesting, even with as much as I like Kendre Miller, that, why would you put yourself through that? Now, having said that, I did in my rankings move him down to where he was going before the dip because I do still think that he's actually, I don't know, but I don't plan to take him a lot.
Yeah. And someone in my chat said that in one of their BBM drafts the other day, or I assume very recently, went undrafted. So like the fall is going to be it's going to happen very quickly, it seems. So that would be my only thing of just like, man, if you do want to continue to pack Kendre bags, if you just chill for a second, his ADP might settle as like a legit 16th, 17th round option. All right, Shawn, we are on the clock at 9-9 here, or about to be on the clock. We got our 1 quarterback Stroud. We got our 2 running backs at the top, Brees and Gibbs, and we got our 5 wide receivers here. Joe Burrow comes off the board. We're looking at like a Zach Moss. We got some of these running backs here. The wide receiver would be Lockett. A little correlation angle there with both of our receivers. What do you think the play is?
Yeah, I think Lockett works here. I'm always good reaching for Judy. I think that, Caleb Williams also an interesting play.
Caleb's been falling a good bit. It seems like this running back tier is a little flat. I know Lockett's not a guy we click a lot, but getting that week 17 opposite Rome and the week 16 opposite Addison on a team where we're kind of catching up wide receiver right there, slightly past ADP feels kind of like a good spot for us. Also gives us a little bit of a hedge on our heavy JSN bags as well.
It does. And last year was his first year to be in the negative on receiving fantasy points over expectation. He'd obviously been a huge guy in that column for many, many years. It was the first time he had done it since before his breakout. And that's not a good indicator for him. Obviously, he now has, probably does fall to number 3 on the totem pole. He's obviously going well below JSN. He also did show up as a faller in our risers and fallers tool, which was kind of interesting. But as you mentioned, he's a very good fit here.
Yeah, you see some names go ahead of him that normally doesn't happen. A guy like Brandon Cooks went way ahead of ADP. Right after him, Jacoby Myers comes off the board. So feel good about him in this range, fitting, kind of catching up at wide receiver, and that double correlation whammy feels good. Still got those 0 tight ends as we head into round 10 here. But a lot of the other names we were discussing, I guess Zach Moss is off the board. He's been a huge faller lately. I took him at 101 in my draft before. As you can see, Chase Brown now moving up. This drafter took both of them. Zach Moss 107, Chase Brown 110. I'd be perfectly fine with Caleb here if you wanted to kind of shut it down at quarterback. Tajay Spears, certainly an interesting running back 3. I know you always like Judy as well. What do you think the play is?
Yeah, I think Williams and Spears and Judy all accomplish different important things for us. If you have a preference, make sure you grab your guy.
Let's keep pushing, right? Let's grab Caleb Williams here. Again, building out some really strong, playoff narratives with this team. Caleb Williams here against Seattle, opposite that Lockett in week 17, and then against Detroit, our Jahmyr Gibbs in week 16. So building out some really strong game correlations around our biggest bet. Also forgot to mention, we got our CJ Stroud against Xavier Worthy in week 16, obviously a potential shootout game there as well. So even though we have some quarterbacks falling here, you look at the rest of our team outside of basically a Geno Smith ad, didn't really have any other viable or at least clean stacks. You could always do the running back quarterback stacks there with our guys, but I think Stroud and Caleb is a very strong quarterback room.
And you mentioned the playoff version of it. Once you clicked Lockett there for us, I thought that Williams was, not necessarily an automatic pick, but really, really strong. I like how Seattle works with the NFC North. That's something I mention all the time. It's more meaningful if you think that Seattle is a potential breakout offense, which is one of the things that we have discussed. With Judy, I have him enough that I do, somewhat try and limit it to my Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle teams. It would have been a week 16 with T. Higgins, but that's obviously not as overriding of a play there. And then it just goes back here as well, where if you're going to spend like this on receiver, this is such a fun team because now we're going to have to do a lot of work at tight end, but both quarterbacks could end up with advance rates that are way above the baseline, and the receivers would in all likelihood move with them to where, that 1-2 punch, if both of them hit, you can actually make quite a few other mistakes, or at least you can pull those mistakes through. And since we're going to be a little bit lighter on experience, maybe playing time with the Addison suspension, if that portion pulls through and we get this team with these receivers into the playoffs, if we can get any tight end production at all, I think this team is going to be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and we're about to pick at 11-9. I do think the kind of decision here, I'm going to get rid of the quarterbacks on our screen since they're not going to be on the menu for us. It would be, taking one of these running backs here. We also have some of the correlated tight end options coming up with Houston and Chicago. But man, Zach Charbonnet, one of our favorites here, he strikes me as a really nice running back 3 with this team. Anything else you're seeing?
No, I think that would be the way to go with it. You get a little bit more Seattle to go with that Caleb Williams pick.
Yeah, and Charbonnet, a guy too, where obviously you're hoping for a little standalone value, but when you have a Gibbs Brees, you can kind of sit on that massive contingent upside there behind Kenneth Walker, and then also just continuing to play out some of the game stack elements there. I think I heard of, because you guys on your Pros vs. Joe's team also did a Stroud team, and I remember like Gretsch floating Dalton Schultz, and you mostly laughed it off. Is like Schultz, is he never in your plans, even when you need tight end, even when you have CJ Stroud?
That would be the place to do it. I think that in this format, for a variety of somewhat esoteric reasons, it probably is less of a deal breaker than it was in that draft. It's probably still not the direction I would be leaning.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what we have available for us at 136. Here is the team so far for us here. We got CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams at quarterback, up to 3 running backs, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Zach Charbonnet. Wide receivers, Stefon Diggs, T. Higgins, Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison, and Tyler Lockett. And then those no tight ends. Back-to-back streams here, Shawn, or back-to-back drafts, where I did not get my elite tight end and was forced into a punt tight end build here. So we're mixing it up. You can't ever accuse us of doing the same things over and over on this channel, because elite tight end, a big part of, I know, both of our draft plans this year, but we're seeing what it looks like when we prioritize some of those other positions early. Can get rid of these here. So yeah, we would be looking at another running back, or if you got one of these tight ends here, Freiermuth, Schultz, Kmet, the latter two obviously stacked up. What do you like?
Yeah, I think it has to be one of the tight ends. And I mean, Freiermuth in some ways is the most interesting, but probably we would take one with the QB here. I think that Kmet is a better player. Let's
do Kmet there. I don't want to see Shawn wince as I take Dalton Schultz. We got a pretty insane, I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but we got a pretty insane deal on Cole Kmet in our main event draft over there on FFBC, which is tight end premium. And I think it's even a little tougher sell there of just like knowing when to start Cole Kmet in managed. I mean, the selling point in best ball is pretty simple, I think, right? It's like, this offense is really good. Caleb is really good. And you don't have to guess when his spike weeks are coming.
And, there's a possibility that he helps balance out some Odunze. I think that the Bears offense could evolve in a way where Kmet is a little bit less blocked than Schultz, who is probably a lesser talent. That kind of thing can be a little bit tricky. Obviously, he's played in a couple of offenses that have arguably inflated his numbers. And yet there's only so much inflation that an offense or a QB can do for NFL players, especially at the receiving positions. I mean, you have to be able to go out there and do it. And so he has done some of those things. And yet if Kmet took, made kind of a secondary breakout this year, I mean, he could be that guy that really balances the scoring from Odunze. And from a weekly perspective, and certainly when you're trying to get these tight end points, you like how that dynamic works. I also think there's a situation where if you get an injury there with the Bears, then Kmet is probably off and running.
Yeah, where you're basically getting like a George Kittle light situation where you can get the spike weeks randomly in the right game environment, but then the contingent upside is huge. And I do like that framing does pair nicely with Rome. If he does take a little bit of time to get ramped up to speed. We've seen even the top prospects come in the league need a little time to get acclimated. Certainly a rookie quarterback as well. But yeah, I could see a scenario where Kmet shoulders a little bit more work early on, which would pair nicely with this team. This draft's moving along. We are about to enter the 13th round selection here at 13-9. We got our 2 quarterbacks, our 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. Freiermuth and Musgrave do come off the board to another team that was punting tight end. They grabbed their first selections there at the 12-13 turn. TJ Hawkinson comes off the board. Schultz had gone off the board right after we picked Kmet. So this will be another spot here where I feel like most of these weeks we have been selecting Jaleel McLaughlin at this spot, certainly on board for that. Unless you want to pull up Hunter Henry here, we might be looking at waiting on tight end? What do you think is the play?
Yeah, I think probably waiting. I mean, that Denver backfield is pretty impenetrable, but the upside at this price here, I think McLaughlin is the pick.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, it's been funny. It's been a hot topic of conversation. There's been, seesawing on the Javonte stuff. One day he's on the roster bubble. The next day he's looking slimmed down and making all kinds of plays in training camp. Estime, obviously one of the biggest risers up the board. But McLaughlin, at least in this interim, has been kind of, I want to say the forgotten man, like his ADP really hasn't budged much, but like it's a lot of the chatter has been centered around Estime and Javonte. It does seem like McLaughlin's role is pretty solidified. I think the question is, what kind of upside is there? Or is he going to be pigeonholed into more of a scat back, change of pace, and he'll never be able to, deliver a top 24 running back season or whatever?
And the more you get the focus on other guys, the more I think that he's just a sleeping giant, where there are so many points in that offense. The top 2 running backs in the Peyton offenses in so many seasons have put up very viable numbers at this price. As long as you don't have the scoring spread so evenly that you somehow don't get spike weeks, I mean, I think he should be at least a round higher.
There you go. We grab another McLaughlin share here. So up to our 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, still only that 1 tight end with Cole Kmet. You do still have Hunter Henry on the board, but he's further down in your ranks here. Would be a running back or wide receiver pick. Otherwise, Wan'Dale Robinson, Ricky Pearsall. We got some other rookies down the board. What do you think?
Yeah, how well do you think Wan'Dale fits into this team? Because this would also be an interesting one to just go ahead and take Jaylen Wright, since we don't need the running back scoring, right? You're not trying to fill out early season scoring on a team where you want Hall Gibbs.
Yeah, let's shut it. I feel like for this build, there's going to be some more intriguing stuff we can do with some of the pass catchers late. So I grab us Jaylen Wright here. I took Jaylen Wright as my running back 5 on the build in the first stream as well. I didn't have quite as loaded of a room Breece Hall and Gibbs. I had Etienne and Cook, but same thought process there of, let's really swing for the fences. Wright does strike me. I'm kind of noticing as more casuals come in and start drafting, like, why I don't want anything to do with the running back 3 on the Dolphins. Like, how is that going to work out for me? So I do think he is a guy that could get a little cheaper here. But I think he makes so much sense for teams like this specifically, where it's like, how are we getting these guys in our lineup over Breece and Gibbs? Well, it's pretty clear that if there's an injury to the Dolphins, Jaylen Wright is going to be an impact player.
Yeah, and I think if you were in one of our more traditional builds or teams, that J.K. Dobbins would have been the pick there. I think for this particular team, Wright is a much better complement.
Yeah, what's your take on J.K. Dobbins? I know you've always had a fairly solid rank on him. Now the news out of camp has been really good. Lots of clips, lots of reporting that he's set up for a big year. I mean, the one thing we know for sure, this team is going to run the ball. We also know that Gus Edwards is just a guy. We know that Kimani Vidal doesn't have a lot of draft capital. I mean, if J.K. Dobbins truly is good to go and healthy, I mean, it's a wheels up situation for him in this offense.
His injury was the most heartbreaking of last year.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great play. We had him on our Chasing Stolen Bananas main event team. That team missed by like 6 points. And you're like, if J.K. Dobbins had just played one more quarter. I really don't know what to tell you there. He's a fantastic talent. He's always been one of the best running backs in the NFL, but he's also always been, or has had so many of these injury issues. The history on his injury would not suggest that he can do what the Chargers are going to ask him to do. The fact that, I mean, you and I were joking about how somehow the Chiefs brought him in. They're like, okay, well, we'll re-sign Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And you're thinking, well, both of these things are wrong somehow, right? We've also watched him come back from a serious injury and like limp down the field for 50-yard gains. I mean, he's the type of player who's such a mega talent that at 80% he can still play in the NFL. There are almost no players like that. I mean, you'd love him to be closer to 100%. I mean, this is kind of the one situation, the one offense, and the one guy where maybe you're going to still take some shots, even though the medical background would say, you're really swimming upstream.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I kind of want to get a little bit more of him now, especially as we start to hear this positive news. We are about to pick at 15-9, tight end, obviously still a bit of a pressing need. But we also get some of my favorites here in the Denver wide receivers are both available. Do you have a tight end that makes sense here? Or should we grab a 7th wide receiver?
I don't think there's a tight end that we need to go with. I think that Franklin is the play. You mentioned Blair's articles, and in addition to Franklin just showing up based on the metrics that he's pulled into some of those, Blair's also written a piece where Troy Franklin is the steal of every draft in every format. So I mean, we're pretty high on it from that perspective. And I mean, it's an apples and oranges comparison because obviously Jahmyr Gibbs had very different expectations last season. But I mean, Gibbs was Blair's guy last year in that same kind of conversation where it's just such a massive steal. You want to make sure you have it. Franklin, a lot riskier, but where Gibbs was going, he was pretty risky. I mean, he needed to really hit, and he did. There are a lot of positive things there. Obviously, Franklin in week 17 goes off of T. Higgins. So that's a fun little piece where even though this is not going to be a Knicks team, you still like to have that little bit at the end.
Yeah. And I always love the teammate correlations. Like you said, this team isn't going to have Knicks. Who cares? We're making a bet on this Broncos offense being better with McLaughlin and Troy Franklin. Speaking of Denver backs, we continue to see the rise of Audric Estime. He goes at pick 179 in this draft. Notable because he's leapfrogging, other kind of trendy rookie running backs, Bucky Irving and Braylon Allen. I do not think we have even seen maybe the end of Estime's rise. I think he's certainly going to flip Kendre. He can easily flip Eli Mitchell. And what comes back to us, Shawn, I know we're going to still take 2 tight ends probably to round this out, but I love taking Mims and Franklin together. I am open to something else. So if you see another path to something really interesting.
One of the names who's a faller, but also seems like he's doing fine is Sinnott. And if we're talking about ultimate upside and how you might get a tight end for a huge breakout, I think that play is interesting. So one of those 2 guys.
I grabbed a Sinnott there. It is very close. It's compelling to me too. And if you read Blair's article, you'll understand why it's so compelling to take both of those guys together, because they both kind of fall in a Venn diagram of stuff you're looking at for potential breakouts. And I love the idea of pairing those guys at cost, but I'm with you. If we're trying to get some semblance of a breakout in this room, in the punt room I did before, I took Luke Musgrave. I think one of the few guys that might be able to kind of break out from this range. Sinnott is one of the others. Every other guy we're going to take here is you're looking at correlation. You're just praying, clutching your rosary beads that they score a touchdown at the right time. You're not likely going to get a true breakout from any of these other late tight ends.
No, and there are obviously structural reasons in terms of, I say structural, there are team context reasons that Sinnott has been knocked to this point in price. And yet I think on this particular type of team, and when you read all of the other things coming out of Washington, talking about, how good he is, Colin and I on OT, early on, we're talking a lot about him being this year's Sam Laporta. I mean, he's blocked in a way that Laporta never was. You have the rookie QB who may really deflate pass volume, but you think about what happened to Trey McBride in his rookie season. There is a very real potential for that to happen in this situation as well. And yet I think that sometimes because of what happened to Trey McBride, we're too scared of taking that same type of plunge with a guy who, if he does hit, the rewards just would be so much more significant than any other tight end in this range.
Yeah. And obviously the the unfortunate wrinkle at the start of the season. We know Zach Ertz is going to be there, and it's like almost hilarious how it maps perfectly to what Cliff did last year with, slow playing the Trey McBride inevitability by rolling out Zach Ertz there the first 5 to 6 weeks. So I think we would have our head in the sand to not assume that's going to happen again this year. But then we also know what happens. Zach Ertz is an older player. They just drafted this guy in the second round. There's going to be some cracks for him to show what he has. And so in a room like this, where like you're saying, we're trying to manufacture something that can compete with the elite tight ends that we would face in these pods. Sinnott gives us some nice ammo there to do so at pick 184. And with 2 more picks left, 17 and 18, pretty clearly an 8th wide receiver and a 3rd tight end. I can't imagine doing a 2 tight end build here, Shawn. Quarterbacks, like you said, not really a concern. One very interesting thing here. Look at that. Marvin Mims comes all the way back to 200 and then goes. Do you have an order or some ways you would like to play the wide receiver and tight end picks here? We could do Dulcich as a way to balance out the Mims stuff.
What are you okay with taking Tez here and seeing what we get it?
I'm always good taking Devontez Walker. He also gives us, we talked about the Houston correlations there with Baltimore. So now we have big spike week rookie potential opposite that Stroud stack in both 17 and 16 there. So yeah, you're never going to get me complaining about selecting Devontez Walker, one of my favorite late round clicks. And then we can kind of figure out which tight end ties the room together here the best.
And the Walker, with the Bateman buzz, I've seen Walker get pushed out of a lot of drafts. I don't think he was drafted in our pros versus Joes.
Wow.
It's one of these things where you have to work against some of your own tendencies, but he's this pick where like every time I'm looking at Diggs or Dell and even Stroud versus another pick, like, well, if I make this selection, then I don't have to have any argument with myself about Tez in the last couple of rounds. So you're like, just take the Houston guy. It sets you up for what you want to do. You shouldn't be setting up a long shot rookie 17th or 18th round pick, but it is fun.
So what do you think we do here at tight end? I mean, I've been enjoying clicking Gesicki. I know that's, some people don't like him, but at these prices, I don't mind it. And I am open to Greg Dulcich here. We do have a grip of week 14 buys. That would maybe be the only issue there. What do you think the play is for our last tight end selection?
We've actually, I think, got 3 compelling pieces. I'm not 100% sure on the Juwan Johnson health, but obviously he was very trendy. Gesicki, I think, should have gone already. But I would also say that Michael Mayer, as a little bit of a play off of our Brock Bowers picks, that he's probably the biggest upside guy of all of these. And I think they could do the 2 together. If you're trying to win the whole thing, Mayer seems like an interesting play to me.
Let's do that. This team can be known as our hedge book for the portfolio. We take Tyler Lockett and Michael Mayer to balance out all of our JSN and Bauer teams, and also a 2 running back start, to balance out all of our 0 RB teams. So basically, Shawn, if everything we think is going to happen this season doesn't happen, we will still win Best Ball Mania with this team.
Well, we said when we took the Gibbs pick, like, let's see what happens. What happened in this case was one of the most fun teams I've had a chance to draft this year.
Yeah, let me get the full recap here for our audio listeners. As always, guys, we do stream this on the Pete Overzet YouTube channel at 11 a.m. Eastern every Monday. Really excited to keep hammering these drafts out down the home stretch here in this last month. And then if you guys are viewers or you're tuning in late and you want to get the full audio version of this, you can on the Best Ball Banana Stand podcast feed. There is a separate podcast feed, or on the overall RotoViz podcast network, where there's so much great stuff coming out. All of the Stealing Bananas, all of the RotoViz overtime, just so much good stuff over on those feeds. So make sure you guys are subscribed. But here's the team, Shawn. We got our 2 quarterbacks, CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams. Let me get a refresh here as the draft concluded. CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams. We had those 2 early running backs, Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs slides to 16. So we say, why not? Let's see what happens. Took only 3 more running backs the rest of the way. Not until 129 did we take our 3rd running back in Zach Charbonnet. We played the hits with Jaleel McLaughlin and took a big upside cut with Jaylen Wright. Our wide receivers, we were worried early on, could we pull this off? But with Stefon Diggs, T. Higgins, Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison, Tyler Lockett, Troy Franklin, and Devontez Walker, we got a nice blend there of some vets and rookie upside. And then our 3 tight end room, this is where we were really going to put ourselves in a corner after passing on George Kittle. We end up with Cole Kmet, Ben Sinnott, and Michael Mayer. How do you think we did with this build, Shawn?
It's so much fun, right? Just so much fun. You would like to think that you're going to score the most points at quarterback. You're going to score the most points at running back. And then you have so much upside built into the receiver picks with Xavier Worthy and Rome Odunze as having that black box rookie element. Certainly they could crush ADP. You take a little bit of a longer view of the season. And, if my thesis on Addison at all, and one of the things when you're looking at how you would beat the 2024 season, when so many things are priced correctly, would be to look at secondary breakouts for young receivers. If those aren't priced correctly, or then you get sort of an accelerating effect where now you also have a suspension. I mean, that's one where now Addison's ability to, on a weekly basis, and certainly on a spike week basis, to crush his ADP is definitely there. So the receiver room ended up actually very high upside, I think. If we're wrong on JSN, Lockett is going to destroy his ADP. We have those 2 late round specific rookies that we like because of their metrics and because of some other situational types of things. It really comes down to whether or not we get any points at the tight end position. And while, we're going to be outscored by a lot of teams there, unless we get one of those other Bears injuries and somehow Kmet really does it. I think from a late season perspective, having Sinnott and Mayer is also exciting. This is a team that you would think would be competitive even without the big tight end points as you make your way through the season. If that part works, I think the tight ends that we've drafted are set up nicely to do what we need then if we want to win the whole thing. So we can get there with the rest of the players. We've got some upside at that tight end spot for the fantasy playoffs. We haven't had a ton of luck necessarily when we've taken risks at running back early. I think today it really paid off.
Yeah. And the thing that I always think is really fun too is this idea of drafting kind of how you would normally draft, but within a different structure. Like there aren't a lot of people who watch these streams who read RotoViz that want to start a draft Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs, like those players, but you have your back against the wall. You're going to have to be making things work, not going to have as much flexibility to, do what you want at other junctures of the draft. It just doesn't feel comfy. Like no one's just sitting back on their couch being like, let's have a great time with this running back start. But then to build out a team that looks like a lot of what our other teams would look like with just a couple key pivots there, I think is really fun because you're still, sticking to your player targets, the archetypes you want to do. Obviously, we still have all the correlation we're looking to build in here from a week 17. So we're not sacrificing anything else other than going to maybe a structure we think is slightly suboptimal in the current drafting environment. But when you're at least betting on profiles like Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs, who we know can, single-handedly win weeks, who can drop 30-point games, I think it's really fun to build our usual out, but basically flip the build.
Exactly. And one of the things that the roster construction explorers have told us, whether it's, this format or several others, is that there is a lot of consistency in what works, but there's not complete consistency. You do have years that thwart the scoring patterns at different positions that you normally get. And it makes sense if you can get the types of players you want with different structures from time to time, as long as those structures would still theoretically work in a certain environment. I mean, there are structures people draft that will basically never work, obviously. But what we did today, I mean, there's really more of a basis for it than it can sometimes feel like when you're looking almost exclusively at 2023. Now, we expect a lot of things for 2023 to carry over and maybe even be amplified. And yet this roster here, historically has been very, very good. I keep going back to the quarterbacks and how we were able to work out some of the game stack elements there. To have done that after we had Hall and Gibbs just makes me so excited for this team.
Yeah, and I do think that's the trickiest component, right? Because it's like if you limit your flexibility, and if you're just saying like, how can I make this work positionally? That's not that hard. It's like, all right, now I need to take wide receivers in this range where I'm not normally taking them. We can make it work positionally. But to also do the game stack stuff, which does kind of require needing to nail the value pockets of the draft while accomplishing your other stuff, that does get harder. And sometimes you might have to be like, you know what? We don't have the bringbacks in the correlation because other things are more important. We just have to salvage this roster where we got behind at wide receiver. So I completely agree. To be able to accomplish those two things in tandem down the stretch, I think worked out really nicely here. Shawn, we were mentioning some of the great articles by Blair that were up on the site recently. Remind me again, the article you were teasing, I don't know if it was before we, or right when we came on the air, that you're working on right now.
Yeah, going to have the 4 wide receivers who can rescue you when you've fallen off that wide receiver cliff. That one is a lot of fun. It's obviously difficult to find the types of profiles that you need after the cliff is gone. You mentioned some of the great pieces from Blair. He's had the breakout receiver series going. He's going to have another piece, I believe, tomorrow. People have been pretty fired up about that. Matt and Kevin continue to generate so much fantastic content. And then Pete, I've been doing a pretty strong job and have a lot of things actually, in the pipe ready to come out. I made this promise that I'm going to have an article almost every day between now and the start of the season. It's been fun. I'm enjoying it. We've still got our training camp discount going. People have been liking that. That's a fun time to be playing fantasy football.
It is a very fun time. We also have, I've been mentioning a few things over on Ship Chasing. We're also booked to do a draft with Shawn Siegele later in August on a Thursday evening. We're going to be announcing our full managed league drafting stream schedule here in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. I know some of you guys, I've been starting to get lots of comments too on my Deposit Kingdom. How does this best ball fit in with managed leagues? I know people, not everyone is just completely enveloped in the best ball streets. On Ship Chasing a couple weeks ago, we did do a show specifically around best ball to managed transition and some of the nuances and how the player pool shrinks a little bit. I also have an article up on Fantasy Life as well, where I covered a similar topic. So if you are one of those people who are starting to check out, some of your these content right now, but looking for it to fit into your home league stuff, RotoViz does an awesome job with that stuff. And I'm going to post a link in the chat here to the Fantasy Life article as well, shifting from best ball to redraft fantasy football lessons for your home league here. And I will say, Shawn, I was looking at some Yahoo, ADP, ESPN. You can get Malik Neighbors in the 6th and 7th round over there, Shawn, if you want to load up on Yahoo.
So your home league strategy was just Malik Neighbors. You've already won.
It was like, all those guys that we take in the 3rd and 4th round in best ball, just take them 3 rounds later and beat all your buddies. Pretty easy game. Shawn, thank you again, as always. Up next, we got Pat Kerrane from Legendary Upside. Shawn, we'll see you next time on the Best Ball Banana Stand. Oh, Pat, I forgot your intro music. Wait, Scuba Kerrane, Patty Millions, Peacock Pat Kerrane on the 1s and 2s.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
98 yards to the fucking house against Carolina in week 10.
All right, there we go. Had to set the stage properly. Legendary Upsides, Pat Kerrane, our weekly Best Ball Mania 5 draft here. How we doing, Pat? Oh, you're muted, or I can't hear you. One of the two.
I'm muted. Went away for the weekend to Temecula. Did like a little weekend trip with the baby, which was nice. It's like you can still go away. You do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday's like just getting you there. You do nothing. Sunday, you just get home. It's harrowing. But Saturday, you get to go out a little bit, and it's fun. So we had a good trip.
Yeah, we didn't do a ton with April at that age. Granted, it was, middle of winter here as well. So that was less appealing. We're going to do a little overnight on Martha's Vineyard with her in a couple of weeks and give that a shot. Our first experience doing the hotel thing with her. So trying to balance that dynamic that you described, where it's like you can still do stuff, but it's a little different.
Yeah. I mean, she's not like sleeping that long, and then there's not much space in between when she needs to go back down. So you have to time it all pretty precise. She eats a lot. And frequently.
That is, I mean, you have to time it all is probably the best way to sum up having a baby or a toddler. Everything has to be on a very tight schedule. Speaking of tight schedules here, got to hop in a draft. It's Best Ball Mania season. This one snap filled. Try to tip you guys off in the Discord. There's only one spot remaining. What do we got, Pat? The Influencer 101.
There we go.
For us again here. Let's get the ducks going for the people. Get the banners rolling. You doing anything different at 101 these days, or continuing to hammer CMC?
I've been taking CMC, but I don't know. I'm open to not if you're trying to get a little fancy today.
Yeah, I mean the only, it's not getting fancy. It's just like I did pull in my exposures here. I have almost 12% CMC and only 6% CD Lamb. So I have been trying to boost the Lamb a little bit, but generally I'm still on the CMC train there.
I know I'm like, I want my 8% CMC, but if you just draft CMC every time, you'll get more than 8% CMC because not everyone does that. So I'm also a little light Lamb, I think. Yeah, I'm 7% Lamb and I'm 9% McCaffrey.
Should we get a Lamb share here?
Let's get a Lamb. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
So I've occasionally done this too, where I'm like, I'm basically, my whole point is I would think both these guys are good picks. I want roughly equal exposure. And I'm at 9% Tyreek. So it's not like, it's really just Lamb that I'm not always getting.
Yeah, my big one, and I finally got an Amon-Ra share this morning, but I'm at like 13% Jefferson, but I was at 3.6% Amon-Ra. I'm also light on A.J. Brown because I have a lot more Garrett Wilson. That's the other one I need to balance out a little more. But yeah, I don't want to be too light any of these guys.
Wait, who did you end up light on because of Wilson?
A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
I'm light A.J. Brown.
I would be light A.J. Brown, but the Hurts ability, the ability stacking with Hurts in the fourth is so appealing to me that I've been taking Brown just to set that up. So
yeah,
I'm still like 7%. I'm still slightly underweight because I really, really want to be overweight Wilson and Puka. But yeah, it's kept me from going way underweight.
Yeah, I was talking with Shawn about that too, and I mean the Devontae Smith too, like being able to get super cheap Hurts with him is really nice. I know you guys talked about that on the Leg Up ranking show recently as well, where, I mean, you can basically have Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown anytime you want. And if you have Devontae Smith, like 25, 30% of the time, you can get him to slide. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes Smith more appealing for sure in the third round, like break ties to Smith, even in the, like, the 210, grabbing him, I think is viable, because that wide receiver tier is so big and pretty flat that, because Devontae falls in sort of a weird spot where taking him earlier means being closer to the front half of the board, which means less likely that Hurts comes back. So if your goal is to get Hurts with him, I think maybe even pulling him into the second is fine.
Yeah. And I know there's lots of chatter these days. I've seen it both on Twitter. You guys talked about it a little bit, the pulling Mahomes up. I think we are now going to enter that season where it's like, we're all going to kind of pull back and be like, all right, we're in the final stretch of drafting. What are just some team stacks or double stacks that I just haven't had access to because of ADP that I now want to throw that out the window a little bit to make sure I have some of those in my portfolio?
Yep. Yeah, I was in drafts last night and it definitely felt different. Like it felt pretty different from, a week or two ago. Players are kind of moving up. Like the ADP isn't necessarily reflecting it, but people are taking a few players way ahead of ADP. And I don't know, maybe it was just like the makeup of some particular rooms, but I had a guy out of the one hole stacking Hurts, but then he also was stacking all my Chiefs receivers because I did exactly what you're talking about. I took Mahomes and Kelsey, and then Rice and Worthy went at the one spot. So that would have been the end of the fourth, the beginning of the fifth.
Right.
That was frustrating. But yeah, it's kind of, it felt for a while like we were just kind of doing like the same draft over and over. And
Davis-Matic.
Yeah. The Davis-Matic, where it's all trapped as Davis-Matic, and it doesn't feel like that to me anymore. It feels a lot more dynamic.
And it is so fun, even if you are like falling into the same habits. You're like, oh, this player didn't used to be there. I've been doing that with Tank Dell, like in the 4th. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen Tank Dell here for a long time.
Yeah. Although Tank Dell, I don't know, he's flipped Zay, hasn't he? It's kind of wild.
Has he ADP wise? Yeah, he has. But yeah, it's still, to me, it feels like he is the one that is a little bit more likely to drop. We're not going to get the Devontae Smith correlation here. Devontae Smith goes at pick 19. We got a lot of badges out in this room, seeing a lot of wide receivers come off the board here as we head to the 2-3 turn. Debo, Nico, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk. Do you ever get tempted by a Barkley at the 1-2 turn? Over on the FFPC, it's monumental news, Pat, when Saquon Barkley falls to 212, I've been told.
I have zero temptation. Barkley needs to be in the mid-3rd, and then I'll think about it.
I do love these two here. I mean, the Neighbors Evans turn is how you have it by ranks. Metcalf also in the mix. What do you think the play is here with CD?
Neighbors for sure. And then I'm down with Evans or Metcalf.
Yep. Let's do Metcalf. I feel like I'm often taking the Evans one there. We'll bro Jacquard this. There's bro science. There's a Jacquard broing here where in my mind I normally grab Evans there. So let's go.
It's just a bunch of bros like back from the bar, just like beakers and
Yeah. Dude, I'm pretty light on Metcalf combinatorics with CeeDee Lamb and Malik Neighbors.
Dude, these results are sick.
Yeah. The Neighbors camp highlights, he's just been absolutely beasting on people, which is like what you want to see. This 21-year-old comes in the league and then he continues to beat up on all of these NFL veterans. And I know whatever, this Giants secondary isn't good, but man, you love to see it.
No, and they're like drawing up plays for him, and obviously, but like Daboll was talking about like how he was like impressed with his ability to kind of like get out there and like understand what's going on with all the plays they're doing and everything. So it just seems like they're like delighted by him. He seems like really competitive as well. Apparently the Giants receiver coach like had him over Marvin Harrison, and he was like, yeah, that's my guy. He's like pissed off that he's like not considered the best wide receiver in this class.
Are you looking, I don't know if you've noticed some of the other camp reports, Jalin Hyatt having a pretty good camp. Are you looking for a buyout in our Hyatt Slayton bet?
Honestly, not only is Hyatt having a good camp, but Slayton, I didn't realize, speaking of people getting along with the coaches, Slayton is like not getting along with the coaches.
Really?
He's like, yeah. He's like pissed off. He's because he wanted, so he signed a 2-year deal and last year, which wasn't for very much money. Then he had a good season. And then he was like pissed off and wanted more money. And they added like some very hard to reach incentives to his contract and he reported to camp. So I was like, okay, the issue's resolved. But then he's like still talking. He's like, he wants a trade. He's like, this is ridiculous. And Shane has come out and been like, I don't know, man. Like, he was a free agent and no one really wanted to pay him. And we brought him back. So like, go out there and play. So it doesn't seem great. And I could definitely see him. And like, I think they would be interested in Hyatt passing him is what it is.
I would hope so. Based on where they drafted Jalin Hyatt, their age and the trajectory of the franchise, I would sure hope so, Pat. That was kind of the thesis when I put $100 American dollars on Jalin Hyatt over Darius fucking Slayton.
Well, Slayton's not that old. Like, he's like, what, a 6th-year player? Like, and he's been pretty good. So I don't know. I mean, I think if Slayton had a business, he would have no problem sitting ahead of Hyatt. It looks like
27 years old. And Hyatt was actually an older wide receiver prospect too. All right, so we start our team: CeeDee Lamb, Malik, Neighbors, DK Metcalf. Nothing too unusual ADP-wise. Barkley falls to 29. Henry goes around ADP at 30. Henry flipping Kyron. Pretty wild. Kyron goes at 32. Pacheco does go at the 3-4 turn. Continue to see Pacheco kind of move up here. I mean, Pacheco rarely slips past early 4th at this point.
Yeah, this is so I've been forcing myself to take Pacheco, but I kind of think like this is like becoming a pretty good situation for people who aren't fully in on Pacheco. So as long as like you want to have had some exposure to Pacheco at the cheaper price, but I wasn't hammering him. I'm at like 4%. Now we knew part of the whole thing was like, he's going to rise. He's like a classic guy. He's probably going to be at this, 3-4 turn for much of the rest of the offseason, potentially even in like the late third. But if I'm not heavy on Pacheco, I love the Nenaric Prince stuff. Give me anyone but CEH behind him, right? Like part of Pacheco's whole thing is, oh my God, what a huge moat. Dead zone backs never have this big of a moat. But like, that's just because CEH isn't good. Pacheco's pretty good, but he's not like amazing. If he was amazing as the starting running back on the Chiefs, he wouldn't have ever gone in the 5th round. That's pretty telling. So yeah, he'll rise on kind of being a running back and being projectable. But I actually feel like, should we be a little bit more concerned about him than we were a week ago?
Yeah. Yeah, which was funny because with that, we were saying, oh, maybe you'd feel more comfortable taking Pacheco when he actually rises in ADP because it means wide receivers would get pushed down. But he's actually kind of risen in isolation right now.
Yep.
We're on the clock. Mahomes, a slight slider. Etienne, the other slider. Someone did already take Andrews to block you from the Lamar Andrews double tap. What do you like?
Etienne is fine. Man, this is a tough spot. We could do like Mahomes and one of his guys, but it's going to be a single stack, which isn't ideal. Honestly, I would be into James Cook. It's like a weird move.
With Etienne, who I just
with Etienne, yeah.
The only I have no problem with it. I just did a Cook Etienne Cook team in the first draft. But we can certainly run it.
Let's do another.
All right. Yeah. This is, I recorded with Jacob last week. I was talking about this on the Deposit Kingdom. And again, just kind of flipping what I normally do in this range, which I think if I'm on autopilot there, I take Keenan Allen and Dalton Kincaid and I move on to the next rounds. But yeah, so we go Etienne and Cook. We pair them with CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, a little bro jacarding here. James Cook, Travis Etienne with 3 different early wide receivers than I just did.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more Cook. The stuff on him has been pretty bullish, kind of quietly so. But this is from yesterday, from The Athletic. There's one true feature of the Bills' backfield in 24. There was James Cook, and then a certain tier break after him, ahead of the rest of the depth chart. And then he was missing, so they're like looking at who else was there, and it was a split between Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. He goes, regardless, both players are looking to be a piece of the running back room puzzle with or without Cook available, but there just has yet to be a clear-cut second back in the early stages of summer. And I think he said if it had to be one today, it would be Ty Johnson, which, it doesn't mean much because Davis is a rookie and he has plenty of time to switch that. But, the downside of Cook is that he's a committee back, doesn't have the goal line role, and Josh Allen is stealing touchdowns anyway, and they don't run through the running back a ton. But, they used him a lot in the passing game under Joe Brady, and he's been pretty good. So the upside is he's a breakout running back who gets used in the passing game on the Bills, and he doesn't have much competition behind him. So I don't know. I'm like, man, who could outscore Pacheco? James Cook. Things have to break right, but it kind of seems like maybe they are starting to.
Yeah, I will say as a Ray Davis bag defender, a lot of the news too out of the camp is how good Ray Davis has looked as a receiver, which is particularly interesting to me just because they did seem to kind of pigeonhole James Cook as a rusher. I think James Cook has the skill set to do it both, but they kind of like using him in the between the 20s. Like if there is room for Ray Davis to still be in like a 65-35 with Cook, but he's getting a lot of the pass catching work and potentially even goal line. Like I still really like Ray Davis as a late selection, but I want to have a decent amount of Cook to balance that out because it is just an opportunity where we know there can be a ton of running back points.
Yeah, and I think being in on Davis still makes a lot of sense. Like the fact that he's not, definitely past Ty Johnson yet. And someone mentioning Ty Johnson got hurt, which I hadn't seen, but West Coast time, I haven't been up that long. So, but you know, I that's not like a reason to be super concerned because he's a rookie running back and it's like the third day of training camp. He doesn't need to have passed a guy they trust yet.
Let's hit this question because I know this is front of mind for a lot of people. I know you have some thoughts on this. I have some thoughts. We can plug some stuff as well. Tommy says, hey, I'm curious on where you guys look to get training camp news for each team. Pat, I know in your guys' Discord, you got a fun little athletic setup there for news.
Yeah, in the Leg Up Discord, there's a feed that pulls in every article from the team on the Athletic. The Athletic itself, though, has a like a training camp live blog that pulls in a lot of the articles, and then frankly, Pete, I open a new tab for every one of the 32 teams, and
I heard you say this to Ben in our group chat, and I was like, "You're a sick man."
So the Athletic will gray out the articles that you've clicked on previously, so you can see very easily when you open up every team page if you've read the article or not. So I've started doing that just to like make sure. Like I haven't, the feed didn't miss an article or the training camp thing didn't miss an article. So, yeah, because I found a couple that I was like, hey, I don't think I read this one. So I've just started doing that to make sure I'm not missing anything.
I'll back Chris here, 32 Beat Writers, a good follow. I'll also put a plug in. I'm writing the Fantasy Life newsletter now daily. I'm reading all this stuff. I'm trying to pull out all of the most actionable nuggets and stuff. I've dropped them in the water cooler. I just lead the newsletter with it. Those would be my spots. Obviously, Roto-World does a great job of pulling those in. All right, Pat, we are on the clock. JSN is here. We don't really have much use for Stroud. Kenneth Walker, if we really want to go bully with this dead zone concept, Keon's here as well.
I think JSN and Keon are pretty good.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about Keon because he has been a funny one where I've mentioned like my exposure on Keon, like I'm already up to like double the field on him, which still like blows my mind because I thought he was going to be a guy I was going to be underweight on. He's having a pretty good camp.
Yeah, I'm back in. He's having a good camp. So he's on, from the same article yesterday. Coleman has only worked with Josh Allen so far in training camp. That's pretty awesome. He's with the ones exclusively. They have him learning the X receiver position. He's going to like have a very concrete role. There's lots of other receivers working in with Josh Allen. They've got, I think it's Shavers that is like this like second year guy that's on the practice squad last year that's past Justin Shorter. And so he's like, they're intrigued by him. They've got MVS working in. Mac Hollins has seen a lot of time with Allen. Obviously Samuel and Shakir. So like there's this group behind, and it does look like the starters will be Coleman, Shakir, and Curtis Samuel. But my point is, it's not a situation where you'd necessarily expect Coleman to only be working with Allen. There's like a lot of guys in the group, and the fact that he is definitely is encouraging because I was worried based on comments that he wasn't like really ready yet, like that he wasn't pro ready with his blocking and stuff. I don't know, maybe like they were just frustrated, but that didn't change the plan that he was going to be a day one starter. So as a day one starter with Josh Allen in the 7th round, I'm in. That sounds great. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I got accidentally muted there, which is that's what we do around here. Yeah, there was a quote too I was hearing from Josh Allen too, where he was raving about Keon and just saying like, we haven't had this kind of guy since I've been here, like that big body guy who can go win in isolation. Because the reason I get excited about that is because it's like, what if this could be like a souped up version of Kelvin Benjamin's rookie year? And I know that sounds scary, but Kelvin Benjamin was a good fantasy pick.
Sounds great.
It was like Kelvin Benjamin sucks, converted tight end, doesn't play in the league anymore, yada, yada. But he got fed that year in the red zone specifically. And guess what? His quarterback setup was not as good as Keon Coleman's has. So if you're giving me like a souped up Kelvin Benjamin rookie year at these prices, like he doesn't have to be good if they're going to force feed him the ball there.
Yeah. And like, I also think, Curtis Samuel, I get why he's going where he's going, but it's kind of hard to click him at this point. Shakir is kind of scary. And a lot of that is built on kind of targets. Like, where are these targets going to go? I don't know. But Coleman is the highest upside way to play it. He's the most expensive, but he's like very clearly the highest upside way to play it. And I think people are nervous about, that he's not going to be able to get out there and earn the volume or even earn the routes in the same way as the other guys. Which is why he's going, he was going like the late 7th for a while based on that fear, which I was kind of a part of. So like I was kind of worried about his ability to get on the field right away. But if that's not going to happen, if he's not going to have to come along slowly, then there's a lot of targets available.
Yep. And, on this specific team too, I always love the teammate stuff. We pull up James Cook to the 4-5 turn, obviously making a very big bet on the Bills here. So tacking on Keon Coleman there. We now have Etienne and James Cook. Our wide receivers are in very solid shape here for taking 2 running backs early. CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, JSN, and Keon Coleman. Obviously the quarterback and tight end are going to be positions of need. I guess the first question is, Pat, do you just take the logical Dak CD stack here for the taking at the 8-9 turn with one of these 2 picks?
I think so. Ferguson went.
Ferguson and Brock Bowers are off the board, so we're down to Njoku territory at tight end.
Yeah, I think we go Dak. And then, honestly, do you want to go Chase Brown?
Yeah, I mean, let's have, I have not, in my first 2 drafts, Zach Moss and Chase Brown went back to back, but still with Zach Moss going ahead. I mean, part of me is like scared to start this level of enthusiasm, even though my 25% BBM exposure here is going to have no problem with it. Do you want to slam Chase Brown here?
Well, I don't have the 25%, so I'm chasing a little bit. Now, I wasn't like out. I think I was at like 11%. So I was just like a little more tepid because I was like, this feels very rug pully. Like I've been rug pulled on a Chase Brown type many times. But I'm at 12% now. So like I've been in these BBMs and I took Brian Robinson over him because I was like, I pushed Chase Brown around the turn. He goes. I'm sitting where I'm sitting now in the 12 hole and I'm like, I'll get Chase Brown here, and he goes right before me. So I'm like, oh no, I'm starting to get tilted. I'm starting to get sniped.
This should have been a consideration. We just took our 3rd running back with a week 12 bye. I'm the bye week bro in this case. I'm sweating. I'm the one sweating right now.
No, we're good.
Pat got so delirious about trying to panic pack Chase Brown bags that we just took a 3rd round 12 guy.
I gotta get double the field before he rises.
Oh,
luckily
man.
The ADP update's probably here.
I will say that bye week thing is not ideal whatsoever. But just more holistically, I don't think all of these backs available here, Swift, Brian Robinson, Moss, Pollard, I think they're all in the same tier. I think if you're pulling up Chase Brown ahead of, say, like the Raheem Mosterts and the James Connors, I think that's a little too fancy. But I think in this range, he's pretty justified.
Yeah, I also think the bye week stuff is like, I know it's like it's a consideration, but we should probably also want to pick the right players.
Yeah.
Like if Chase Brown's a smash in the 9th, I think we'll overcome the bye week. Plus, we're not stopping at 3. We're gonna go. This is a 5 running back build anyway.
Yeah, and they cannot be week 12.
And they cannot be week 12 running backs.
As Alex highlights 3 straight punt tight end builds on Best Ball Breakfast, which is very unusual to even have one draft. I punted it on solo. Shawn and I punted it, which we never do. And now Pat and I, we'll have to see if Cooter Doodle at 1 p.m. Eastern, asterisk Doodle, if she can get us back on the elite tight end train.
Yeah, I mean, punting is not my favorite. I was hoping to get Ferguson there, but he went like way ahead of us. And then Bowers is kind of your break glass in case of emergency pick. He would have been nice. I mean, Bowers and Dak would have been a lot of fun. But I'm not trying. I don't take a lot of Njoku. And I don't take a ton of Ferguson unless I have Dak. So it's really elite or Bowers for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying in the first show. It's like, okay, I don't have tight end. I'm not reaching 14 picks to take Dallas Goedert unstacked just so I feel slightly better about it. It was funny. Like, Shawn is so what's the word I want to use? Like he will not compromise on like his player evals. Like we had a punt tight end team with CJ Stroud, and just like Dalton Schultz is just not on his board. Just like will not take him because he has the profiles of guys that he thinks can really smash their ADP, and he's just gonna click those guys over and over. In my room, I did do a Musgrave, but then I'm way more willing to correlate. Like I did a Will Levis build where I tacked on Chig. I had some Cincinnati stuff, so I tacked on Gesicki. So, there's lots of different ways to approach that punt tight end build, but why it's hard is because finding the guys who could truly smash their ADP, there's just like 2 or 3 of those guys. And by smash their ADP, I mean be 5th round picks next year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I tend to be much more on the correlation side of that, just because like once you're down where Schultz goes, like the odds of anyone absolutely smashing, especially at tight end, aren't great. So
yeah, you
just need like, what do you need for the price? And if Schultz has 2 touchdowns in a late in the season and any week late in the season, like, oh man, like that is massive. So, and he doesn't need to be good to do that. He just, if you've got that tied to Stroud, like, that probably advances you as long as you have a good team. It's like good team plus that equals advancing, and it's difficult to advance. So that's the way I tend to do that. I mean, Schultz is not all that exciting, but I do take him when I have Stroud.
Yeah, but I think too, even in the worst case scenario, it's a pretty good contingent play. If something happens to one of those wide receivers, I mean, Schultz will be a bigger part of the offense.
Like he's a capable tight end.
Yeah.
I don't think he's bad.
We ended up doing Kmet, who we did have stacked as well. So I should say it wasn't just all non-correlation. Kmet
well, Sean's loved Kmet since he was in Notre Dame. He's loved him since the beginning.
Yeah, Cole Kmet. Yeah, Blair was really on him last year. I think Cole Kmet ended with positive advance rates last year. Has been kind of just a consistently good pick where he's going, if not super exciting.
Yeah, some of these guys like Chig, like I think I'm out on Chig. They talk a lot about Josh Wiley and how they also like
any relation to Jared Wiley.
Is it Jared Wiley?
Well, Jared is the KC guy, but I'm like, is there a Josh Wiley in Tennessee?
I think it's Josh Wiley.
Okay.
Or maybe it's Weil. I don't know.
No, I believe you. I just didn't know if they were. We got a couple.
Josh Wiley.
Okay.
Anyway, they're talking a lot about him and about their interest in a tight end committee, basically. Like we have guys who do different stuff. Everyone's got their different roles. I'm like, oh god, we might be 45% routes here. So, yeah. Chig, I need the full-time role if I'm betting on correlation.
Well, Pat, speaking of not forcing the tight end, I mean, Goddard does come all the way back to 120 here, opposite CeeDee Lamb in week 17. That feels pretty good.
That feels great.
We'll grab Goddard here. The other pick feels like a little bit more choose your own adventure. If you have a wide receiver you want to pull up here. Dowdle. Get double Dowdle.
Or Sharps.
Mm-hmm.
We're betting on Seattle. We're betting on Dallas. I'd grab one of those 2 dudes.
Look, I click both these guys a lot. I have 21% Sharps and 14% Dowdle. I mean, what do you pick?
Dowdle.
You love Dowdle.
I love him.
Yeah, give me like the range. I mean, we're obviously reaching for him ahead of ADP again. I think we're in a similar tier here, and we're obviously correlating with this Dallas bet. But where is your make the case for the Dowdle doubters, I should say?
I mean, I don't have a strong case that Dowdle is good. My case is that Dowdle doesn't even need to be that good. He needs to be like Chuba Hubbard, and then it's like a smash. Because Zeke is thoroughly washed. And he can do things that keep an offense from cratering. He can pass block. He can catch dump offs. He can do short yardage, sort of. Even that's kind of fallen off. So if you need him to just go out there and eat snaps and kind of a big name Daria Gumbawale, that's kind of what Zeke is sort of morphed into, which is like, an important thing where like he's trusted, he can be out there. But that's the bar now for Dowdle to clear. And the reporting out of camp and mini camp and kind of all offseason has been like, he has a real chance to be the starter here. And they like him. And they trust him as well. So I'm like, man, I'm not that worried about the RB3 thing. I think that's another kind of like red flag that people have on Dowdle that I'm just like not that worried about, because we're now, training camp has started, right? They're going to get someone's like leftovers from post training camp. That doesn't, they have an offense they're installing right now. They have protections. They have play calls that they want the running back to know exactly what's going on. Like, no one's going to come in and immediately become the starter. They, if it's a good enough back, it would be a problem, sure. But like, that's not, I feel like it's almost like that's like the most likely scenario in some people's mind. And I think that's a risk, but not like a one to take you off of the bet, where you have a chance right now to get I believe 25-year-old potential starting running back on the Cowboys in like the 11th, 12th round.
What do you make of, because it's interesting, how their offseason played out. What the team told us with their decisions is that they felt pretty good with who Rico was, because they just bring Zeke back. They waited. That was like right around the NFL draft weekend too, when they signed him. They obviously go through the entire draft without taking anyone of note. Internally, they have to feel good about him. On the other hand, like Tony Pollard was massively struggling last year, and they seemed reluctant to really boost Rico's work into more of like a 50-50 timeshare.
Yeah, that was frustrating. And, it's possible that this is a big whiff in Dowdle. But the thing about the price, right, is that like, what if Dowdle is only just a pure handcuff to Zeke? Like, all right, in the 11th round. So that seems fine. Like, I wish I spent a 13th round pick, maybe 14th, but I wasn't. Are you getting the pure definite handcuff in Dallas at, later than the 14th or 15th? Like, it's not even that much more of a premium than we would pay for the handcuff. So yeah, I don't, and like, the upside seems very not priced into me. Where I do acknowledge that he could ultimately play behind Zeke this year, but if Zeke were to get hurt, and I know Zeke's played through a million injuries and never actually misses games, but he's an older back, like he could, and so that's where I would be like, all right, well then what's the cost if I'm buying a handcuff? Is this crushing to the team? And it isn't. He normally goes in the 12th round.
It's funny because we took Chase Brown, because as you kind of talk through it, it's like the Rico Zeke stuff could be pretty analogous to like the Chase Brown, Zach Moss thing, where it's like Zeke's getting a lot of the high value touches. They're probably gonna have him there third down. But if this offense is rolling and Rico is their kind of early down guy of like, give us explosive plays, which sounds like how the Browns want to use Chase Brown too. Like, let him be the guy that's ripping off chunk yardage and not putting us in third and long, every time. And then we'll bring on the older veteran guy in pass protection and some of that situation if we need him. Yeah.
What do we got here?
I mean, Nick Chubb at this price as our RB5 seems pretty nice to me.
Let's do it.
Let's do Nick Chubb. I mean, he had been a big riser, but falls 20 picks past ADP. I think most of the risk is baked out at this point. I mean, Eckler's a big faller
Not
too,
week
but
12,
we're going to be
week 10.
Week 10.
Kind of a perfect guy. We're just trying to cover that week 12 bye. He'll be back by then.
Nick Chubb, week 12 league winner. Tight end, Pat, you have any interest in pulling up Hunter Henry? Who knows the kind of things you could do with Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry seems like a pretty good pick.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We're done at running back. Yeah. There's nothing here really for quarterbacks with us yet. Let's do Henry.
I like it. So there's stuff about like the Cowboys, like Fournette incoming. Like Fournette couldn't pass Latavius Murray, not worried. Zeke will vulture touchdowns. I think that is part of the concern, but like again, we're paying 12th round prices for this dude. I take Dowdle, who's in the 17th. Like You wouldn't, because he would never be there. You're telling me that Braylon Allen is going in the 16th. You're going to get the clear handcuff to Zeke in the 17th?
Estime's already flipped Braylon Allen.
Yeah, that's just not a complete mispricing of a handcuff, not even a potential starter. Then someone asked, why do we take him over Zeke? I do feel like Zeke is very draftable. I do take Zeke. I think he's washed, as I said, but I'm at 8%. I'm not out because he can score touchdowns and catch passes. But, dude, we started Etienne JCook, and then Chase Brown is potentially the Bengals starter, at least 1B at worst. And it's looking much more likely he's 1A. We don't need Zeke. We don't need early season production. We want to take a big crack. We want to take upside there. So Zeke has a lot of utility on true kind of punt builds. I sometimes take Zeke and Dowdle together as a combo RB3 type of play. But when you have two running backs at the 4 or 5, I don't think you need to worry too much about that.
Yeah. And the running backs that go off after Rico, Blake Corum, I think, was up there ADP wise. Obviously Zeke, Charbonnet, who I think is a similar big crack. But, the correlation angle too, I do love having, on a team that we build around CeeDee Lamb, we take him over CMC. We have Dak. If we're saying, again, we get another special season from this offense, and having the lead back in that scenario is going to be both really good for our, regular season advance rate, and then give us, that fabled ping pong dynamic in the playoffs.
Yeah. But I do. I mean, to the people kind of talking up Zeke, I get it. I mean, I think he's definitely someone that should be part of your portfolio this year. He does not. The bar is pretty low for Zeke too. He needs to pass this dude who couldn't pass Tony Pollard when he was having a bad season, or maybe not even pass, maybe just stay ahead of him, and he needs to, kind of dive into the end zone and catch a bunch of dump offs, and he's gonna that works. So especially when I've if I've got Jonathan Brooks, I need to go check my combinatorial exposure with Jonathan Brooks and Zeke, because it's probably pretty high.
Just bro Jakarta, dude.
Yeah. Let me check. Yeah, dude, it's pretty high.
How about this? If you think we reached on Rico, just pretend that we slightly reached on Nick Chubb at pick 121, because we're feeling pretty high T this morning, and then Rico came all the way back to us at 144. That's some some ADP bro logic right there.
The bros would like that way more.
Yeah. Here's the team so far. We got a 1-5-5-2 build. We got Dak, we got Etienne, JCook, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, Nick Chubb. Probably going to shut this bad boy down at running back. Our wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, JSN, Keon Coleman. So again, just those 5 through 73, and then grabbing other positions here through the mid rounds. Have gotten our tight ends, Dallas Goedert, who is a faller, and then pulling up Hunter Henry. 2 solid running back or tight ends there. Not the gross feeling tight end punt room, I should say, with those guys.
No, feeling good.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
No, I was going to say, thinking the quarterback stuff, obviously we have Drake May. I guess Daniel Jones is on the menu. Gino, I forgot we had the double stack going here too. So
could be definitely on the radar.
Yeah. And I would say, someone was asking me about this earlier, because I did a 3 quarterback team with, who was it? I think was it Joe Burrow? I don't know. It was Etienne and another kind of mid-range quarterback I'm already blanking on, and then saying going 3 quarterback. I think you still could end up going a 3 quarterback even with a Dak team at this range.
Yeah, I'm planning to write about this. I'm still kind of getting my thoughts together, but it does, because, Jacob Sanderson had the article of hey, maybe we just take all these really underpriced running backs and they hit our flex more than we're used to, and that's good, and then we win. And that's sharp. But I also think, because he was kind of making the case why, so you're saying you can build hyper fragile but start later, but why? But to me, but the why is the onesies. We know that getting points out of tight end position is hugely valuable in these single week tournaments, and then having additional stacks is also really valuable. 3 stack quarterbacks is a really powerful strategy, and I'm kind of interested in expanding the types of teams that I'm going to build 3 onesies with, especially when I have a strong running back room that I didn't have to spend a ton for, which this would qualify.
Yeah, we're back on the clock. I mean, Gino, I think, is definitely the pick with our double stack.
Yeah.
The question is Fant already gone? I think Fant's already gone.
Fant
so that's
goes
not
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some interesting wide receivers here. I mean, I can't stop clicking Troy Franklin. We also have some correlations with Jalen McMillan, week 16 opposite Dallas. I'm into any of these. I think we should probably grab another wide receiver here.
Yeah, I'm in Franklin.
Yeah.
That works for me.
We got Franklin opposite Chase in week 17. Yeah, I like McMillan a lot, but have a hard time taking him over Franklin here.
Yeah. No, I mean, both are actually pretty exciting, but
yes,
it's pretty wide open for like the wide receiver 2 in Denver. Now it seems like I think it might be Josh Reynolds is the wide receiver 2 right now.
Yeah.
He keeps talking about when we talked about news, Coach Speak Index. We need to shout out Coach Speak Index. Very, very valuable. Provides the clips, but then also there's a lot of context to what's going on, which I think I'm very thankful that Greg Brano started this and not someone who just wants it to be like pure clickbait stuff. There's a lot of context to these quotes. So, but anyway, he's been cataloging how much they've been. By they, I mean Sean Payton has been talking about size of the wide receiver room, like unprompted. They'll be like, what do you think of was it hot out there today? He's like, not big wide receivers because that's what we like. That's the prototype. I was like, okay. So I'm like getting a little nervous, and then he was specifically talking about Josh Reynolds, and Josh Reynolds is like Franklin's not big, Mims is not big. You know, like who is he talking about? Like I guess like Reynolds and maybe Tim Patrick. Like it's just strange. So. You know, I'm starting. It's making me nervous about Mims, especially. You know, because we know the whole saga with him and Mims, and I'm worried he's like just their kick returner now. But the connection with Bo Nix, and we know Nix is going to play a ton this year. The connection with Bo Nix is, I just kind of keep going back to that as a reason to be in on Franklin, especially like rookie wide receiver. You're taking him in the 15th round. If he gives us one spike week at the end of the year, we win. You know, the wide receiver room is pretty strong. So as far as like, if you're just zeroing in on that part of the bet, I still think his path is really exciting. Yeah.
I love both. I do think you have to take Franklin over Reed or Mims for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned. And also just head into this with open eyes that Sean Payton he's gonna make us work for it.
He is
for sure.
He's
Nothing's gonna come easy here.
Yeah.
All right, Pat, we have 3 more picks to go. That Noah Fant pick, I was like, wait, where's Noah Fant? So Noah Fant went at pick 157 to a Kyle Pitts drafter. So I don't know, that maybe the Noah Fant steam is here. And I just did not.
If you guys like Noah Fant, get over to FFPC. We just got him in what round? The 14th round?
14th tight end.
14th round tight end premium. He's literally going
14th here. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going like ahead on Underdog. You will see him go ahead of where he goes on FFPC in half PPR versus tight end premium. The love for Noah Fant on Underdog is real.
Yes, it is. All right, let's see here, Pat. So we got that 2562. Like the Drake May stuff is off the table because the Noah Fant drafter took him. Bo Nix is back on the table with Troy Franklin. If we are looking, again, we don't have to force the third quarterback, but I'm just thinking through positionally. I think we're definitely taking a third tight end, and we're definitely taking a 7th wide receiver. And then it's kind of what you would want to do with that last pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think what are we looking at with wide receiver?
We're down kind of to the rookie flyers, Devontez Walker, Baker. You also got like Dortch. I think we could probably push wide receiver at this spot. It's probably figuring out who our third tight end is. If we could set up the double with Dulcich, with Nix, that'd be an option.
That's interesting. Yeah, let's go Nix for sure. I like that play. And then we could do Dulcich. The There's no one at wide receiver who we like absolutely need. So we might as
No,
well just lock up the double.
I think so too. Yeah, it's going to be a while till it comes back around, but it would be like oddly tilting if we pushed one of these two and then it
It would
didn't
be.
happen.
Because then you end up with a single stack that you tacked on late. It's much more fun to tack on a double.
Talk about Dulcich. He was one of your favorites when he came into the league. We notoriously have a clip for him over on Ship Chasing.
Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, got mushed, but he's back on the menu now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a guy they've seemed so last year, my theory was that Peyton didn't know who Dulcich was. Like, he didn't seem to be aware of him as a human. So I was like, that's not great. And then he got hurt, and he's been struggling with injuries. So it's just like, all right, like, this guy's probably done. Like, players fall off the map shockingly quickly, and I just assumed that's what was going to happen to Dulcich at that point. But they were talking his return up. Like, they were really excited to see him out there, and he's back out there. And the early reports were that he looked like really good. He was like really making an impression in training camp. So in an environment where Jelani Wood, we kind of lost Jelani Woods. Like, they're talking up Jelani in the sense that they're like, I'm excited to see this guy run around. I sure hope he could be an awesome tight end 4 for us. They don't seem like Jelani does not seem like he's going to be a starting tight end out of the gate. He's going to have to earn it. So, we're drafting Colby Parkinson, but he might not be a starter. It might be Davis Allen, and it might then get taken away if Tyler Higbee comes back at the end of the year. It gets gross at the end, and to have Dulcich as a potential stackable tight end flyer is fun. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's definitely fun.
All right, how about this, Pat? Sean Payton always talking about these big wide receivers, and you look at the wide receivers on the team and you're like, these guys are all small. Greg Dulcich, famously a hybrid tight end, more known for his pass catching, by far the biggest of the pass catchers. What if this big wide receiver he keeps talking about is actually Greg Dulcich?
I love that theory. What I don't know, and what I think we need to find out, is what does Sean Payton think of Greg Dulcich's hair? Because if he loves that hair, oh my God, look at that hair, we're in business. If he's not that into the hair, then we could be seeing a lot of Adam Troutman or whatever.
Well, love that. Sorry, no, I was going to pull up this one. Hang on, where's the comment? Oh, Dave saying the clip curse kind of seems real. I mean, kind of. I mean, we have not launched a single player into NFL stardom.
Okay, Dave, but what about Hasta La Vista?
I mean, we're good at creating memes, not future league winners. There's a reason we haven't made a clip yet. Everyone is like, oh, make the Drake May clip, make the Jalen Polk clip. And it's like, what?
Drake May's not getting a clip. I get to guarantee. Drake May's not getting a clip. Someone asked about my exposure earlier. Way too much for a ship chasing clip. That's my Drake May exposure right now.
Dustin, when's the new Underdog contest dropping? They've been dropping them on Wednesdays, and I assume they're going to have a steady drip of them every Wednesdays from here on out. I'm crossing my fingers personally for a chow chow. Give me a $50 10 max. Sounds pretty nice. But yeah, stay tuned on Wednesdays. Follow the Underdog Drafts account. That's where they tweet all of them out. And they've talked about Wednesdays being their weekly cadence for dropping those. That's when the other single entry contest dropped last week, the Corgi and the Bulldog.
Nice. So someone said, Steph said Saquon Barkley clip, but I'm worried we can't do a Saquon Barkley clip because that might work for Barkley, because I think it has to be truly in the spirit of wanting this player to succeed that we ruin their career. It can't, you know what I mean? So we have to just I think we can do Jalen McMillan, sorry, but that seems like one I can live with. Yeah.
Maybe that's what we have to look at our portfolios. We got to find one guy where, you know what? If I have to sacrifice Bucky Irving to the gods.
The Bucky Irving's a great one. Bucky Irving is a great one. Let's make a Bucky Irving clip. We can overcome that.
Maybe we should just, whoever wants to pay the most amount of money to mush a player, we'll just hold an auction. We should have a charity auction for the Shift Chasing Clip. We'll donate the money to a charity. Whichever person raises the most money gets to pick the clip.
No, what they pick is that who we don't do. So whoever has the least, so we'll give you the candidates as be one of these players, and then whoever gets the least money raised towards him, gets the clip.
That's true. Do you have any? It looks like you guys now have Tolbert buried in your ranks. He's an ADP faller correlated. Do you have anything else?
I'm fine with Tolbert. Yeah, Tolbert's been kind of hit or miss in terms of how much he's actually going to get. But it seems like he's done okay in the beginning of camp, so I could do it.
Yeah, I'm looking at just if there were any other correlation stuff. I mean, he's obviously correlated with our main piece there. I'm not seeing much else exciting here unless you have like all right, it's time to start taking Bull Melton or whatever.
I mean, we could take Josh Reynolds or some, that's gross, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, let's do he's not big enough. We already took Dulcich.
I think he actually is big enough. I was hoping Javon Baker would come back. I just wanted to share this.
I heard this one. Yeah, say the quote.
Baker, it's worth repeating, simply moves different than the rest of the receivers. He boasts more burst and sprint, almost with a non-contact form of violence.
Which beat reporter wrote that?
This is a quote. 32 beat writers had this as a quote. I'm not sure the original source, but let's see. It's from Andrew Callahan. But he's running with the 3s and 4s. So that's the very important context, is that he's like buried on the depth chart, but he's looking good with the third team.
I highlighted that in the first draft where I was like, it was the day before that quote. It was like, Javon Baker, pretty raw, got a ways to go. And then yesterday was like, it's Steve Smith incarnate, the way he attacks the ball out there. I'm like, okay. All right. I'm going to recap this team. We'll get Pat's final thoughts. Then in a few minutes, we got Miss Doodle coming on for our final draft of the day. This is Best Ball Breakfast. Make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel for all the live streams. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Legendary Upside. They have the YouTube feed, they got the podcast feed, and of course, their premium subscription there. You can get the ranks we just drafted off of the Legendary Upside ranks. Of course, the if you don't want a bro Jacquard in your head, you can get the actual Jacquard tool over at Legendary Upside as well. And Pat will hit a few other plugs after we recap this team. Ended up with a 3-5-7-3 build: Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, and Bo Nix. Our running backs: Travis Etienne, James Cook, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, and Nick Chubb. Cover your eyes, bye week bros. Our wide receivers: CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, JSN, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, and Jalen Tolbert. And then our punt tight end build here: Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, and Greg the Leg Dulcich here. How do you feel about this team?
I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to overcome those week 12 buys at running back, like how could we possibly survive just 3 buys? It just seems like pack it in,
Don't poke the wasp nest that is the bye week bros, Pat. Like they will come swarming here. I
was in a situation where I had Drake May set up. Someone asking about doing naked Drake May because he can run. God damn it. No, don't do that. He's the most stackable quarterback in the pool. I can't deal with people sniping me unstacked on Drake May. So I got sniped on Drake May. He was my third guy without a week 12 bye. I took Juwan Johnson, Derek Carr, got my third. It was a room that needed 3 quarterbacks, but there were 3 week 12 bye quarterbacks. And I've just been getting tagged every 3 or 4 hours. Someone just replies to this going, 3 week 12 buys. It's gonna be a hole in your roster. I think that'll burn you. Probably not advancing with that team. I think that's your Achilles heel. If I had to say of this team, that's probably your Achilles heel. Oh, by the way, the screenshot is only that, so they don't know what the rest of the team is. It's just that, but that's the Achilles heel. I could have drafted the worst team imaginable, but definitely the week 12 buys are the Achilles heel. So I'm a little tilted by the bye week bros right now.
No, you think bye week bros have time to analyze the entire construction of a team and correlations? They simply scan for similar numbers. I mean, the best thing you could have going for you is if the ADP and where you pick them were the exact same number. Then they go, oh, those 2 numbers are the same too.
And like, I don't know. I mean, I know the bye week stuff is important, but like, I was like unstacked Knicks to cover a bye or a third stack. Does that make which adds more points over the course of the season? To me, I was like, I'm going to bet on the third stack. I'm going to bet on these players actually being good. So it just, I don't know. The bye weeks, I'm willing to poke the wasp nest, I guess is the way to put it.
I love this. I got to pull up this exchange in the chat here. Just too good. So Josh Cooper says, I had Polk, Henry, and Baker in Sacrilegious 9, took Naked Drake May to pair him with KJ Osborne once. Sacrilegious chimes in, unlucky, bud.
So Sacrilegious is obsessed with KJ Osborne. I don't know how it started. I don't know. I'm having a very, very hard time maintaining excitement about KJ Osborne. I get like briefly excited that every time I talk to Sacrilegious, but then it fades very quickly.
I mean, there's basically no such thing as naked Drake May when you have the Patriots wide receiver depth chart. I promise you take KJ Osborne. Well, guess what? I literally saw some positive news on Juju Smith-Schuster on my timeline yesterday. You can go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want.
Jalen Reagor?
That's a bridge too far. So it's all fun and games until you bring up Jalen Reagor. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to shout out. We with the sidekick, the two biggest things that we were promising are custom ranks and DraftKings compatibility, and both those are looking pretty imminent. So hoping to have custom ranks out first. We're gonna end up launching like a beta that people can test out with the custom ranks. So if you just want to use the regular sidekick and you don't have to worry about anything going weird with it, do that. If you want to use custom ranks with a beta version of the sidekick, we're going to launch that pretty soon. And then DraftKings compatibility also, hopefully very soon as well. Maybe not this week, but it's possible.
That's it. Is the hang up with the custom ranks for the sidekick having to do with like it's easier for you guys to kind of identify your own positional tiers, and then you're doing some light randomization within it, and then that gets complicated if someone has like truly funky ranks that like mess up some of the like tier stuff? Is that where the hang up is?
There was like we had to kind of figure out how to code stuff in that was going to work for a variety of ranks that will it'll act similar to the way we're doing it, but like the leg up ranks are designed to go into the sidekick, and everyone else's ranks obviously aren't. So it's sort of like discussions about how we wanted this all to work. What we've kind of settled on is basically like the rankings you use are then your sidekick. So like if you're drafting with some rankings and that ranker is much more aggressive compared to ADP, then you should know that. Like that's kind of what the sidekick that you have doesn't care about ADP as much. So if you care a little bit more about ADP, then you're going to need to kind of mentally factor that in. But we landed on a solution I think will work pretty well. But part of it is like we kind of need to see how this works in action a little bit to make sure that it's the way we want everything dialed. So that's why we're going to launch it as a beta, where it's like maybe the way the custom ranks interact with sidekick ultimately changes slightly as a result of the beta testing. I don't think it'll change a ton though. I feel like we're in a pretty good place, but that's kind of why we decided to go the beta route as opposed to just like rolling it out. It's ready to go. Like, don't even think about it.
I liked your suggestion of beta testing on Davis's ranks to see if you could actually get him to stop drafting 4 Chiefs in a row in every draft.
Yeah. We'll see. That he's going to be. I'm going to talk to Davis about becoming a high volume beta tester for us, because that'll be very helpful information.
All right, Pat. Good time as always. By the way, you got your Pros vs. Joes draft tonight on Ship Chasing. That's 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to join you at least for the start of it until I pass out.
And Drico is as well.
Draco's joining. Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll get an FFPC thought leader over there. So if you want to watch Pat draft in that Pro-Am contest, that'll be 9 p.m. Eastern on Ship Chasing. Also, ADP Chasing today, slightly delayed schedule. I think 4 p.m. Eastern is your guys' kickoff. Right. Kyle Dvorak swinging by to talk ADP risers, fallers.
Yeah. Excited for that.
All right, Pat. We will catch you later. It is time to bring on. We got to censor it.
But do you have to?
It's Dr. Doodle. Dr. Doodle is
Dr.
here.
Doodle
I want
in the
you to
house.
know, so Cooter Doodle's referencing in the title, I did asterisk Doodle. and it does look like I'm being a prude, but do you know what it actually is?
You probably do get in trouble, right?
No, I don't care about
okay.
that. I'm OCD about, I want my titles to fit in the like preview without the text spilling over. Like if you do a super long title, it like cuts off. And when I did Cooter Doodle in there, it cut it off and I didn't see any of your name. And so I said, I will frame it as if I'm a prude and only comfortable saying asterisk.
Got it. So it's just a bit. He's not afraid to say it, right?
No, I'll say Cooter, 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 Cooter,
All
Cooter,
right.
Cooter.
All right. All right. You know, Pete, a lot has happened since we last drafted. I don't know if you know this, but I've finished a book. That's a big deal.
You've been kind of like quasi participating in the P.O. Box off-season book club.
Yep. I even read the last one. I don't know if I'm ahead of schedule, but I read it. You've
already finished the Kevin Kelly book?
Yes, you did me a solid because I got it not knowing it was like the pages weren't full of words.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I was like, oh, easy peasy. So yeah, finished that one. I'm a pickleball queen now. Beat my husband in pickleball every weekend.
That's right.
All my appliances, I've changed them all out since we've last spoken. They've all broken. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want, for people who didn't get to watch the world's fastest slow draft where we set the record a couple Fridays ago, Cooter Doodle was watching on the big screen, but the repairmen were there. She made the mistake of letting me know she had this on, and I had to shout out the repairmen. And did they actually hear me, or was that a bit?
They semi-heard, but we didn't acknowledge. They definitely looked. They know my name, and so I just ran for the mute button, and that was it. So
that's incredible. I know you probably don't need a proper introduction, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. Cooter Doodle, Fantasy Life's own, does a bunch of terrific work over there, writing weekly columns. Of course, you can catch her on the Twitters as well. What's your season schedule looking like? What are you going to be doing for Fantasy Life this year?
A lot of writing. Hopefully some videos. We're hoping to do some, promo for New Era. I'm a company woman.
I got mine. I haven't cracked mine open yet.
Oh yeah, you got to crack it open. And things like that. Yeah, some videos. Maybe bring Floss back.
Don't. For people who know, so yeah, Fantasy Life is has a sponsorship with New Era this year, and they sent us literally a box with a hat for every single team. And what did I loved your video. You had one where you were cycling through wearing every single one of those. How long did that take you?
Not long at all. Just a little. There's a little. Just me, but it worked. And I'm a bandwagon fan. Y'all know this, so it works perfect.
It is. You can
I can support anybody anytime.
Although, does the Saints hat, does that get special prominence as the person with 3 Shaheed jerseys over your shoulder?
I mean, yeah, it's going to be a big year. If he can just do what he did against the Colts last season, like 17 more times, we're good to go.
Yes. Cooter Doodle came on the Shipcast, the show we did every Thursday night football game last year when the Saints, was that against the Colts that game?
I don't know. No, that was the Rams game. I think it was the Rams game.
You said if he scores a touchdown, you're going to buy a jersey at halftime, and then he scored a touchdown.
Yeah. Live on air. I was stunned, too stunned to speak.
All right. Well, let's not be too stunned to draft. I just hopped us in a Ball Mania 5 draft. We got the 1-7, which is a really funny spot to be ADP wise, because famously last year, Cooter Doodle came on the final stream when I was streaming all 150 drafts. And I think we had like the 1-2, 1-3. And you were like, should we just take Garrett Wilson?
Let's just do it. Yeah.
And the mimosas were flowing. And I said, absolutely.
It didn't work out.
Yeah. Do we go for redemption?
I don't know. I'll tell you this. I don't know if anybody knows this. Where I live, I can't play Underdog. So I have 0% across the board. So I'm down for anything today.
So this is, I don't send Venmo requests. I'm not haggling. You get 50% equity in this team. So this is your team. I need you driving the boat. Whoever your guys are, I need you pounding the table.
We're about to be on the clock.
We are about to. Do you want to just?
I get nervous. I don't get to do these. I only do these with you.
All right, let's look here. By ADP, Amon-Ra, Bijan, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson is down there. No, I want the Cooter Doodle.
Do you want to do a repeat? Look, if it's my heart, and I know this is probably goofy, but if it's my heart, we're going Puka Nacua.
Okay,
but you can convince me out of it.
No,
But if we're just having fun like we did last year, let's go Puka.
We are here to have fun. We are here to follow our heart. We are here to make picks that make us feel warm and fuzzy. And Puka's not a bad pick.
And it's one of those things, like, you know, when a player treats you well, I just feel like you got to pay it back to the universe. So he was good to me last year.
This is like when a player, you know, I think right now I heard, you know, Matthew Stafford has been, you know, wanting kind of his contract restructured or whatever. Cause it's like, look what I did for you guys. I came in here and I won the Super Bowl, and they're like, but you're old and, you know, whatever. And you're saying like, sure, maybe Puka's best year is already behind him, but we need to reward him for what he did last year.
Yes. Waiver wire hero. I think I spent $89 out of 200 on him, and it was worth every fake dollar there was.
I will say, like, as far as like waiver wire stories go, you do get those more with running backs, right? Like you get at the guy, there's an injury and then he crushes, but it is so rare to spend money on a wide receiver like that, who just like the last example would have been Odell Beckham. I think his rookie year, he was like on waivers week 7 and then like scorched the earth down.
Yes.
I mean, that is such a euphoric feeling to get in fantasy football.
That's what I'm saying. You got to pay it back.
All right.
Got to put it back in the universe. He'll have a good season.
Now, would you ever take Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua on the same team, or are you so fiercely loyal to Puka that you would never do that to him?
I don't want to cheat on him like that.
Okay. It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, you could convince me literally of anything, but I just feel like it wouldn't be kind.
All right. I'm taking Cooper Kupp off the draft board. You heard it here first. We start Puka Nacua. We're about to pick at 2-6 in the middle of the second round. By ADP, you got JT, you got Chris Olave, who plays on a team you might be familiar with, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel. Who do you like?
If we do the stack, do we want to try to? Well, no, I don't like the quarterback. Never mind. I was going to say Olave and Shaheed. I'm okay with Collins. I'm okay with Waddle. Do we want to go running back this early? I don't know what the best ball. Like I do, but if I want to try to get Shaheed later, do we want them both?
I think you could have them both on the same team. Give me your heart of hearts pick right now. We can make any of these wide receivers work.
I think I want Collins over Olave. I really think so.
Okay. I like it. This was a morning where I think I drafted Steph Diggs on a couple teams. We're going to balance it out, get some Nico Collins there. You feeling good about that Texans wide receiver room this year? You
know, I think I am actually, because I don't know if you know this, but I'm a one-team woman. And I'm a one-team woman over here. So, yeah, the Texans are going to be great. CJ Stroud, I think, is going to just dominate. We have Tank Dell out there, but I think Nico Collins and Tank could really just both elevate the offense. You know, game makers right there. Playmakers.
Do you want to get the Rams hat underneath it? And you know, people talk about stacking players in best ball. Do you want to start stacking the hats?
You know, should we? I don't know if I'll be honest. Until New Era, I've never been a hat girl. So I don't know. Like, do you tuck your ears under it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what to do with a cap. But I'm learning.
There we go. This is you know what? Those fit on top of each other pretty nicely, I feels like.
Oh, they stack very well.
So here's the decision. You know, when we correlate, you know, one of the reasons we do it, we're eliminating the number of things we have to get right. You know, we take Stafford with Puka, just get that one thing right. This has newfound utility for you in this draft, because when we take more Rams players, you don't have to put another hat on your head. If you try to hit an 18-leg parlay, that's already 18 different hats on your head.
You're right. You're right. And look, I want the listeners to know, I don't know. I know there's week 17 correlations. I know that stacking is important, but I'm not tapped into the best ball world. So y'all just help me out here. You know,
here's what but the hats are actually going to be like a really useful practical tool for us in this draft, because it's going to help us remember correlations. Because you're either going to it'd be like, hey, do you want to fish around for a new hat? Or do you just want to keep it going because we've already drafted a player from that team?
Yeah. Makes my brain look real big in there too.
It is. You do. I mean, you famously have a PhD. So I think big brain confirmed.
Shout out.
We start Puka Nacua, Nico Collins. We're going to be picking here in the middle of the third round. Speaking of correlation.
Yeah. Do we hold off on running back, or what do we do here?
Oh, Kyron does go. All right. Kyron would have been fun with Puka there. A lot of the running backs are off the board unless you like Derrick Henry. We do have Cooper Kupp. Nope, Cooper Kupp's gone. Good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But that's Derrick what we wanted.
DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Tank Dell, Laporta, Zay Flowers, Josh Allen, who is daddy.
Okay. I feel like this is a panic mode, but I love Laporta. He's another one I feel like I owe my life to. Are we just going off of vibes? Does it ruin things? Be honest
No,
with
it doesn't. Go get that Detroit Lions hat out, though. I'll tell you
All
that.
right. I'm going to pretend like I know exactly where it is. Oh, wait. It's actually right here. Yeah.
Are you just strewn about your office right now?
I don't have I bought the little hat setup. Oh, this isn't going to work. I got the little hat set up and like little things to put on my wall, but I can't bring myself to take Shaheed down, you know?
No,
I can't do it.
It's too good of a bet. You know what you could get, Kendall, sorry. I mean, you could get some of the floating shelves. You get the floating shelves.
Well, it's a floating hat holder.
Ooh, yeah.
So it looks like the hats are just, living on the wall.
Exactly.
I just don't know if I can do it.
So Sam Laporta, he was another. Did you draft him last year, or did you pick him up off of waivers?
I think both, but he was, him and Puka. I feel like they were the princes that were promised. They came in late in the drafts, if you even drafted them, and then they saved teams. Like the teams that I won, I had probably one or both of them on my roster.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, Sam Laporta, do you have any late round tight ends that you think could give us the Sam Laporta, or is that just a once in a lifetime?
I don't know. I feel like the only chance of that same path is Bowers, but is it the likelihood of that is so if you look at the statistics over the years of rookie tight ends just jumping in and being dominant, it's just not likely.
Yeah, I know. And Bowers is just, he's not as cheap as Laporta was. That was otherwise what made it so fun last year. Have you, I think the thing people have talked about with Laporta this year, myself included, is we all love Laporta. The question is, does he separate from the other elite tight ends? Should he be the first off the board ahead of Kelsey, ahead of McBride, et cetera?
I could see the argument. I don't know.
Oh, I don't want to make you panic. We are on the clock here.
Okay.
George Pickens, Amari Cooper, Isaiah Pacheco, T. Higgins, Patrick Mahomes, Christian Kirk.
Pacheco, Mahomes. I don't know. How this. We're supposed to be trying to stack here, aren't we?
Yeah, but I mean, we can grab a running back, or if you have I'll put Pacheco in the queue. Is there anything else you like more than him?
I don't know. I don't feel comfy.
Let's do Pacheco.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We'll add Pacheco here, but you are going to need to add the Kansas City Chiefs hat to your thing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm already regretting this. My head, I'm going to get a headache.
I'm putting this on Twitter right now just so people know. So you do kind of have to, and you might want
to
really
ASMR.
Think about correlating now, so you can.
Is that good? Did y'all like that?
Strain.
You don't like that ASMR hat rip?
I like that.
Oh yeah. The noggin's feeling tilted. If I drift forward, it's just the weight of my team. All right. I don't feel bad about missing out on Cooper and Higgins right now. I'll be honest. So I think we did okay. But again, best ball world, if we're trying to stack, we're definitely not doing that yet.
No.
Should we panic? When does the stack become imminent?
I think my level of panic is going to be based on how untenable it gets for you to continue to put hats on, because that's going to really force us to correlation when you're like, I can't put a 13th hat on.
Yeah. Oh, 13. Shout out Taylor Swift. Yeah, you do it.
Any training camp news piquing your interest? Has anything come across your desk where you said, you know what, I'm going to think about that when I'm on the clock?
Not really. I love Keon Coleman's vibes. It's not training camp related. It's just his videos. Like I said, I'm really just going off of my gut feeling on this draft. I don't get to do these. I don't want any regrets, Yeah, I get it. I'm down for the fun stuff.
I don't want you to regret this team. If this is your first underdog team of the year, we can't mess this up.
Yeah. Already halfway through with the year too. It's so sad.
Can you
calendar?
Do, the move? Can you do the, if you're traveling, you do the Ben Gretsch, you enter a lot of slow drafts, you come back and then you do them that way? I did that at the Fantasy Expo last year. So almost a year ago, I did that. Whenever I was flying home from Canton, I just boom, shotgunned a ton of them in there. And when I landed, finished them off. And how did those teams turn out? Did you win any tournaments?
If we're being dead honest, I forgot my password. I need to go check.
I hope you log in and you won, the Hound Dog 46 and you didn't even realize it. We're on the clock here.
All right.
Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, James Cook, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin. I don't see any team correlations here.
Yes, me either.
Probably want to go wide receiver would just be my recommendation, but I want the Cooter experience here.
Man, how do you feel about either Worthy or Godwin or Rome?
Okay, I just put Godwin in there for you. I like Worthy as well. Slightly later ADP, maybe he makes it back to us. So we get Chris Godwin here. That is going to require you putting on a Tampa Bay Buccaneers hat, though.
Yes. I'm scared of them. As a Saints fan, I am scared of them. I don't know if you can hear me.
I did have one out a la carte, and it happened to be Tampa Bay. So I'm going to do this in solidarity with you.
A la carte. All right. There we go.
I always feel like Kyle Shanahan when I do it, because he always wears the flat brim on the sideline. I feel like I'm ready to dial up plays for Christian McCaffrey right now.
Yeah, I know. When I was a kid, the whole thing was breaking it, and people, the guys would rub it and scrape this on the cement and make it all is that a thing still? I don't know.
No, you just took me back, because I remember going to the mall in the hat stores. It was lids or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have a device that you could buy where you leave the hat in overnight. Yeah. And it would, get your bending of the bill in it.
Yeah.
And then,
I don't know if this is cool now. Straight bill. It's gotta be.
I think you're setting a new trend. I think it looks very cool.
Yeah. I definitely look really cool right now, but yeah, they would scrape it. They would scrape it on the cement. Boys are weird.
Yeah. The flat bill though, we're gonna make this work. Although I would say with 32 different hats, you could try out various styles for them. You could bend some.
A few.
Yeah. All right, we're about to pick again. We got one running back, Pacheco. We got Puka, Nico, Chris Godwin, and Sam Laporta. If you are looking for some correlation, we could keep the Bucs rolling with Rashad White. We could keep the Texans rolling with Joe Mixon. There's Lad McConkey, CJ Stroud. If you just want to stack up. Nico, I'm
down for Mixon, White, or Stroud.
Let's do Mixon first.
Yeah, should we get a running back? Because we can go any quarterback. We can stack any quarterback.
It's true. Look at this. This is why we have to correlate. Now you are saying, can you just show the Texans hat just so there's a lot of doubters out there that'll say, do you actually have it on?
I think it's going to be.
Should be the second one. Yep.
There we go. This is ridiculous.
There was something so satisfying about the peekaboo reveal of the Texans.
I swear I have a day job and people respect me. Okay. I swear.
I was where when I asked you to do the show, I was like, are you going to be in the office? You're going to be able to pull this off, but you're at home today? Yeah.
Well, we have the AC being fixed today and tomorrow. So, appliance things.
My fridge was literally being fixed about an hour ago. We are just down bad. What happened to us in our I just had to replace my AC as well.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah.
That's some best ball money right there.
Yeah, hit the like, subscribe, become a YouTube member, so I can have air conditioning. Not fun stuff. Any other? Obviously you're planting your flag on Shaheed. Are there any other players in the top? You mentioned Puka. Maybe someone we didn't get on this roster that
we've been hitting a lot of them. I'm excited for the rookies. I get rookie fever. I'm scared in my home draft. I'm gonna get rookie fever. Keon went. I was hoping for Keon, but I like the rookies. I don't know what it is. It's just fresh, hopeful. You know what I mean?
Beginnings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Is behind us.
I've been clicking Keon in a lot of drafts. Is he number one in the likability power rankings in the NFL?
Oh, him and Jamal Williams have to be. They're up there for me.
And you know what? It's funny you say Jamal, because we're talking about Kendre Miller bad vibes. I need to get your boots on the ground there. Is Jamal Williams, is he back to being an 18th round pick now that Dennis Allen has revealed he hates Kendre Miller?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard to break off of what he did at the Lions, and like get that out of your brain. But the team likes him. If you remember what happened, the team likes him. They got him that touchdown when they shouldn't have. And they're told to, the team likes him. It's got to mean something.
Yeah. What else are we hearing from Saints camp? What's the good local word there?
You know what? The training camp hasn't been local for a while, but they have one coming up. So I'm going to go and I'll give you the deets. I'll let you know what's going on.
Lot of hope that our new OC there, Clint Kubiak's going to, inject more of a modern spin to that offense.
A lot of Saints fans down on Dennis Allen. I'll say that.
Yes.
That's a polite way to say it.
All right. Here's the spot we're in. Jason goes, so I don't even see it. I think do we get CJ Stroud and we just go all in Texas?
Stack it. Yeah. I say do it.
And
this is aside from this, are you a little nervous about him this year? Like when you talk about, can they replicate?
I'm not.
No?
I'm not.
Okay,
nervous.
good. Okay.
I like Stroud.
Good.
But
that's all I needed to hear.
There are some people who might have just tuned into the stream like 2 minutes ago that don't actually believe that you have a Houston Texans hat on. Can you kind of just confirm to them that you do? It's
there.
Yeah.
It's here. We've got Rams. We've got everything going on here. We've got a headache. We've got probably, oh man, I messed it up, Pete.
No, you're good.
I can't figure out what's happening.
There
we go. I'm getting a forehead mark, perhaps.
It's worth it for the bit.
Really
we suffer for fashion. We suffer for bits. If you're just tuning in now, I'm drafting a Best Ball Mania team with Cooter Doodle. And to prove that we understand correlation and its importance, we are having Amanda put on a new era cap for every different team drafted on our roster. And thankfully, because of this Joe Mixon and CJ Stroud back-to-back picks, you got one hat that was already placed on because of Nico Collins. So I think you're nailing this correlation.
I think we can keep this going.
Yes. This is, sometimes my guests come on this show and get buried in a wide receiver avalanche. I would say that's the one risk that we're running right now with only 3 wide receivers.
Not having enough.
But when you love Rashid Shaheed, that's a really good guy to love when you're behind at wide receiver in these rooms.
Okay. I don't know. Should we focus on stacking? Well, can you go to like the wide receiver page and just to see, can I peek?
Yeah. Cortland Sutton, Curtis Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Joshua Palmer, Tyler Lockett, Romeo Dobbs.
So we're probably not stacking at this position regardless, right?
We could maybe add a quarterback for them later, but yes, this next selection probably is going to require another hat being placed on your head, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Well, if it has to be Shaheed, I won't be mad about it.
I'm honestly, I do think we need to take a wide receiver in this range. Shaheed's ADP is 105. The next we pick is 103. There's no guarantee he's coming back. I feel like if you have 3 jerseys of a player behind us, we need to put them on.
Oh, okay. Does this count as scrolling the F down?
Yeah.
When you're 12 picks ahead?
Yeah, it's completely fine though. It's completely fine. We have to add Rashid Shaheed at pick 90 for the bit.
Look, all he needs is like 3 targets a game, 3 catches a game. He can still give up like 150 yards, maybe a touchdown. You know what I mean? He doesn't need many looks.
Let's see it. Here comes the
what number
hat is this?
I cannot. They're getting too thick. Double C.
Yeah.
I have to unbutton them. This is hat number 6, 7?
6, because we have Houston, we have Kansas City, we have Los Angeles, we have the Bucks, and we have the Saints, and we have Detroit. So 6.
There we are. All right. Now it feels like home.
Is there something like, how people, they talk about runners, you get that second wind, you get that runner's high, is that what you're kind of experiencing with the hats? Like now that you're up past 5 hats, that it actually feels better than even just having 3 or 4 on?
Not at all, Pete. Not at all.
Your temples feel strained right now?
My temples are pristine. It is the center of my forehead where all the thoughts happen. You know what I mean? It's just right here.
Can you tilt the brims up a little bit to put less pressure, to maybe put the pressure more on the back of your head?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
I was just
quite
trying to
working.
help. All I can say is if we're already at this spot and we are not even halfway done with the draft, we really need to prioritize correlation.
Okay, let's do it.
We have to really prioritize.
So what is it? Houston, New Orleans, Bucks, Rams.
Yes. KC, Detroit.
Okay.
Can you just be honest and tell me how many, like, what do you think is the upper limit of the number of hats that your head can support right now?
Yeah, we're getting there. There.
That's good to know. It's also concerning for this bit.
It's getting there, but I will persevere. All right. I feel like we can at least save ourselves a couple in the next few picks.
Yes. Here, so by wide receiver, Cortland Sutton is here. As far as teammate stuff, there isn't a ton. This might be a forced hat here. Let's see.
Do you still feel like we need to boost up wide receiver?
I do. I think.
Then let's do it.
So these are your names available: Tyler Lockett, Romeo Dobbs, Khalil Shakur, and A.D. Mitchell.
Dang. I don't know, Pete. I'm thinking like overall team. I don't know, Pete.
So, Romeo Dobbs, if you want to get deep into the correlation, plays opposite Rashid Shaheed in week 16. You know, this is me really selling stuff here.
I'll take it. I want the big brain stuff. Let's do it.
I feel like Romeo Dobbs is a good pick on builds like this because everyone else doesn't want to draft him. They either want to take Dontavian Wicks or they want to take Jaden Reed. No one wants to take Romeo Dobbs. You now are a cheesehead. I do regret that you do need to find the Green Bay hat, though.
Okay. The problem is if I bend down, I do think I lose them all. All right.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. There are a lot of other Green Bay players later in the draft, so that can open up some correlation for us here. Man, that Green Bay logo, that's just a powerful logo, and it really takes up a good chunk of the hat.
And it's taking up a chunk of the screen. Hold on. Let's see if I can.
You got a standing
There we go. I did a little drop there. All right.
That's like what I do by standing desk. It's like sometimes you're out of frame and you're like, no, we got to get this back in frame.
Also, is the coffee pour no longer a thing?
No, it is. I'm just like pretty much out of coffee. I think I have a drip. You want a drip?
No. It's okay. I just,
I'm out. What do you think about this? So Nathaniel says, I've seen people end up in a wheelchair or end up wheelchair bound for wearing too many hats. Don't become a cautionary tale for the best ball community. The hat bit isn't worth your health.
Nathan's the only one that cares, right? Thank you, Nathan. I need somebody in my corner here.
I'm legitimately concerned. I think, it's kind of like tough lessons, right? Where I was like, this could be really instructive to impart upon people the power of correlation. And yet it also could be like when you make the kid smoke the entire pack of cigarettes to prove a point too, that it maybe is just a bad lesson to make someone.
It's just as damaging.
It is. How about this though? What if we do take, is Dontavian Wicks still here? Dontavian Wicks right at ADP.
Bracket.
You keep the Green Bay hat on. What do you think?
Let's go. I'm for it. Less hats. Will we win with this? I don't think, but that's okay.
Can you imagine, if we win Best Ball Mania and not only, people always say like, oh, it was, the crane or the chest. Like, what if it was the hat draft? The hat draft took down Best Ball Mania. What do you think the trend would be of the Best Ball streaming culture next year? How many of them would be stacking hats during the draft?
I'll say this. When you talk about diversifying, I feel like part of diversifying your portfolio means not paying attention to what you should be, right? Like if you're going to have a draft in there, just going to do some curveballs. It's got to be up there with it, right?
I think, and they say the NFL is a copycat league. Best Ball streaming, it's a copycat culture. I'm just saying if we ship with this team, the amount of multi-hat wearing Best Ball streamers we're going to see is just going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Flat build. Make sure it's flat build.
I will say I always service the audio listeners. It's really hard for me to service you with what's going on with Cooter Doodle right now. These hats are something you must witness with your own two eyes, but I will recap the team for you. We got one quarterback, CJ Stroud. We got two running backs, Isaiah Pacheco and Joe Mixon. we have recovered at wide receiver. We're up to 6 wide receivers: Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Chris Godwin, Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs, and Dontavian Wicks. And we got tight end Sam Laporta. I'm feeling good. I think we can.
I'm gonna be. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
You shouldn't.
Okay.
Yes.
And if anybody does, just keep it to yourself. Be okay.
Yeah,
Kindness.
please. That's the thing. Like, could you tell some of the people that leave comments on my videos? Can you tell? Actually, no, because it's good for the algorithm. I was gonna say, if you don't have something nice, don't say it. And actually, it's not true. If you have anything to say at all, please say it. The algorithm needs it.
Just if you're mean, put a little /s at the end so we think it's sarcastic. Okay.
Yeah, I need a sarcasm font to soften the blow of some of these comments.
I will say I was kind of hoping for Zeke next, but he went.
Yeah. Yeah, Zeke, that would have not
Maybe
helped us with
Dowdle?
our correlation goals, though.
No, you're right. Correlation wise, I keep forgetting. But
See.
I feel like
who we could take? We could stack up Laporta with Goff.
Oh yeah, I do like that.
Quarterback.
I do like Goff. I like the Lions this year. I put in a $9.72 bet on them winning the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I just want everyone to know.
Well, I mean, in the best ball community, we like to blur out how much money we have in play when we post our exposures. So it is like a little rude for you to just kind of come out here and flaunt your unit size on that bet. So can you read that and say I have an unspecified amount of money?
2 cents.
You don't. I mean, people
plus 1,300. I don't know what that means entirely, but I know that it would be good if they won.
Next thing you know, you're going to go telling people how much it costs to repair your AC.
Oh no, I don't want to speak that out loud. It's terrifying.
Amanda.
Oh, and also I'm in Louisiana too. So if y'all want to feel sorry for me, it's hot here.
Yeah,
it's hot.
No, they definitely feel. I assume these hats aren't necessarily
they feel sorry.
letting in a lot of air.
Yeah, they feel sorry just for my forehead. I'm sure.
Someone just tuned in right now and they said, wait, you took a Lions player. Why aren't you putting on another hat? And I was like, no, she already has one on. Can you just kind of show them? Round 3.
I'm taking a guess here.
There it is. There it is. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we're pretty much done at quarterback on this team.
Oh yeah.
We can probably swing back to running. Oh, you know what we could do? Dalton Schultz at tight end with CJ Stroud.
Stack
he
it.
Wanted to stack it up.
All right. Might as well.
Dalton Schultz went. We got sniped.
It's like they knew. They're paying attention. Stream
How about
snipers.
this? Do you like Marshawn Lloyd? Because that's another running back load up on the Packers here. That would be an option.
The Packers running backs make me nervous, but if you feel like I trust you, do it.
We could take Rico past ADP. This is all about, are you willing to put on
hat or not? I'll do it for the hat. I like Rico. I'd prefer Rico.
Okay. You can tell Pat, Pat made us take Rico Dowdle at pick 120. You can go laugh at your ADP value. You just got him at 138.
Oh yeah. Pat, not patient. You just gotta wait, Pat.
You just gotta sit on it. Look at that.
I think that's what that girl said.
You said it, not me.
All right.
I feel like if you need to invoice me for like a bottle of ibuprofen after this, feel free to send that to the offices of Peter Overzet.
Do you think anyone is taking this seriously?
There was one person in the chat that said less bits, more best ball talk. I think there was one person. I literally do like 25 hours of real fantasy content a week, and this guy's mad because my guest is putting on a bunch of hats right now.
Hey, they're NFL hats. They're NFL
They
hats.
are. It's on topic. You're not putting on Harry Potter hats. These are NFL hats.
And we've stacked. We've got great offenses.
We do.
I mean, what are we doing wrong here? Besides,
we're doing nothing. So here's the team.
Reaching.
And like, let's just be really concretely objective. We got CJ Stroud and Jared Goff, both past ADP stacked up. Pacheco, Joe Mixon, and Rico all passed ADP. Our wide receivers, Puka, Nico, Godwin, Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, our tight end, Sam Laporta. Literally the only pick we pulled up ahead of ADP in maybe a slightly aggressive manner
Shaheed.
is a man who has 3 jerseys to his name hanging up behind you. So that seems justified.
Yeah, he's a big play baller. And in best ball, you don't have to decide. It doesn't matter which week it's going to be.
Famously, you don't have to decide. So to me, this is probably like a running back or tight end pick here. On the correlation front, we're struggling to find a teammate in this range.
Well, let's just pick a good running back here then. What
do you like? By ADP, like Kimani Vidal, Jaylen Wright, Chuba Hubbard, Kendre Miller. Actually, Kendre Miller would be correlation, but he's falling in drafts right now.
Yeah, I don't feel comfy with that because I don't like the way he was talked about. I don't know. Do we want Font? Can we wait on tight end? Do we want to go running back here?
Let's see. I put Vidal in for you at the last second because you told me you like rookies.
Yes, I wasn't looking at the clock. That's me. That's on me.
It's okay. No, I did get him, but unfortunately, that is going to need to be a Chargers hat that you place.
I don't know where this is.
Yeah, I guess this is getting tricky now.
It is.
Are all hats in the box right next to you?
I'm also having to be like an athlete right now. You know? Stay balanced, pay attention. I might be able to grab it with my foot.
I love the profile shot here. These are the perils of drafting a team that's too uncorrelated. It's pretty here. Ooh,
I know.
Outer baby blue's looking nice.
Punishing myself here. It's okay. But look, nobody can say that I don't root for their team.
Hey, God, I need to get a screenshot of the profile view here. Could you stay there? Okay. All right, you're good. You're good. Oh, my God. That's incredible.
And look, this really isn't for the bit, guys. I will flip-flop between favorite teams every single week. So you're just getting an inside look.
Yes. I am worried. I feel like we need to correlate the shit out of this team down the stretch to make sure that you aren't incurring any kind of injuries during this draft.
All right. Is that the professional way? Correlate the shit?
Correlate the shit is the professional term. I try to sneak that into my fantasy life articles and they keep taking it out. And they're like,
CTS, correlate the shit.
Yes.
I mean, we have plenty of teams to correlate, so I think we'll be all right.
No one's head game is stronger. This is like watching. I have an idea. I have an idea for this next pick.
All right, I'm listening.
So there has been a lot of positive buzz about another Chargers running back in J.K. Dobbins. What if we take both Chargers running backs who have a shot?
Do it.
And then you keep the hat on. We grab J.K. Dobbins here. All right, let's do it. Your hat is spared. We have 4 more picks, and we're now up to.
Oh, we're fine. Yeah,
we're completely fine.
And look, I really, again, don't know if this is a good best ball team, but I'm enjoying it. I feel like we have some good players.
Yes,
they're going to score some points.
Yeah. This is my only thing that I'm regretting is I should have kept this to the paywall. I should have said Cooter Doodle is going to put 18 different hats on for this draft and you need to pay us money, for hosting it. And then also to foot the ensuing medical bills for Cooter Doodle. I think I should have done that.
You can't always think ahead.
Is that a pun?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
4 picks. Let's see if we can go no more hats. Let's see.
You look like you're actually in pain right now.
Oh, it's good. Let's see. It is so thick in the back. It's literally busting through the tops.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let's kind of think through this as far as from a correlation and what we need positionally. We definitely need another tight end.
All right.
We can look at some of these. Who have we already selected here?
We could go.
Jawan Johnson.
Could go Otten. We could go Jawan Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We got some options there. Otton and Juwan Johnson. Let's put those in our back pocket. We're probably going to be taking one more running back, one more wide receiver. Bucky Irving would be, one of my favorite plays. That's correlated there with the Godwin pick. Deneric Prince, if we just want to go handcuffing with all of our...
we could. It's 4 left.
Jalen McMillan at wide receiver, another Bucks pick. So these Bucks might be the key to making sure you don't have to put more hats on.
Yeah. I think we can make it happen with running back and wide receiver.
Yeah. Normally I would say we wouldn't necessarily do a 3 quarterback build with Stroud and Goff, but if we did get enough Tampa Bay pieces, I think we could justify adding Baker as well.
Okay. If you think we're not missing too many pieces elsewhere.
I think we're in good shape. We got a couple late tight ends that we know we like. We're pretty balanced because Laporta's our elite tight end. Being weak at tight end 2 is not a big deal with Laporta there.
Okay.
Our quarterbacks are great. We're building out our running back room. We'll need to find one more running back.
I was going to say, I feel that's the position I'm most nervous about right now.
Yeah. But Pacheco and Mixon, both those guys going to be lead backs on their team. Rico could be, and then we've kind of trying to corner the market here. Let's see. I think, do you want to do Baker and see if we can lock up a little stack here?
Why not? At this point, why not?
And just so I know that you took Chris Godwin in the 5th round and put on that hat, but a lot of people don't. Can you kind of prove to them?
Yes, I can count.
And I'm going to prove right here. Go Bucks.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Ooh, there it is.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
So we got to go. We got to go running back.
Yes, but someone sniped us on Bucky Irving, which makes me mad. I would say that because a lot of the running backs got wiped out, we could maybe wait to take a running back late.
Okay. Who was the wide receivers we said, or did we say we wanted to go tight end?
Well, I think we should try to go a buck here. So it would be Jalen McMillan or Cade Otton.
Okay. I'm okay with Otton.
Yeah.
Unless you think running back, if we're waiting and we're going to come back to some, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
No, I'm reading your vibes. Let's not go Otton.
No. I think we're a buck no matter what. I think we could go either way. The one thought would be if we like McMillan more. Okay, Jalen McMillan goes. Starklander just. This is the pitfalls of streaming. You just try to talk through your thought process, and these guys come and snipe you. It's really just.
Hey, at least they're getting a good draft. This is the draft of the people. Somebody here is going to win, and it ain't us. This is the draft of the people.
Matt says Pete owns one hat. You're getting outworked. B. I realize we are all witnessing greatness right now. I dare someone else to attempt what Cooter Doodle is doing. And to do so, you'll need to buy 32 team hats from New Era. Use promo code FANTASYLIFE at checkout. Do we have a promo code, or is this just?
I don't know.
Just
but
buy
you
your
can
New
try
Era
it.
hats and tag us and say Amanda's performance inspired me to buy these hats.
Or asterisk doodle. Either way.
Yes, asterisk doodle. Okay, I do think we go. I do think we take Cade Otton here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they made the decision for me, and that sometimes I feel better about it.
I do. Yeah, and we get him past ADP. We get Baker past ADP. You now got a double stack with Baker. You got Jared Goff stacked up with Laporta, and you got CJ Stroud stacked up with Joe Mixon and Nico. This masterclass in correlation, as illustrated through the simplicity of stacking hats, has been a true masterclass for this audience today.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder,
See, Star Kindler is saying that he heard us say Otton, so he clicked the other there.
I forgive him.
Jeff Miller wants to know, how are you feeling? Is the stress of the hat bearing down on you?
No, it's all good. It's really just all pivoting to this point right here, but it's worth it.
Can I see a profile view again? Maybe, yeah.
Do you see the openings?
It looks like a plume of feathers or something, like a peacock spread out back there. All right. So we have 2 more picks here. We've all agreed we need another running back. I think it's a running back and a wide receiver. The question is,
All right, who?
can we pull this off?
And
for
can we make
correlation?
it? Yeah. Oh man, probably not.
So there's the backup running backs to a couple guys like Deneric Prince behind Pacheco, Damian Pierce behind Joe Mixon, if you want to do a little hand cucking.
You know, I'm not against it with Pacheco. Keep going with our choices, though. We have time.
So for strictly correlation purposes, let's see here. Damian Pierce. Let's see. Man, we are really running out.
Yeah, we may not be able to force this.
Khalif Raymond, if you want to get a Jared Goff double stack, although there's a bad blurb about him lately. He's running behind someone else.
We may not be able to force it, and that's okay.
The benefit is that at the end of the draft, you are going to have to wear them for a little less length than you would had an uncorrelated pick earlier in the draft.
Yeah. And look, if we scroll down, it's worked before, right?
It has. I think.
What's our best, just shot in the dark? Prince? Who's our best shot in the dark to stack it? They one injury away or one,
That doesn't have anything to do with correlation?
It could be either.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking like a big home run here at the end.
Yeah. I hear you. I certainly hear you. I've heard people talking about Rashid Ali being a scroll the F down, a Baltimore rookie running back that they like. You want to get really freaky?
Let's scroll.
All right. They play also. We don't have a Baltimore guy. I have an idea.
Okay.
I have an idea here.
Okay.
I should have done the other guy first. I was thinking we could double tap Ravens rookies here at the end, Devontez Walker, but I should have done Walker first.
That's okay.
But this is going to require you to put on a Ravens hat because we just selected Rashid Ali.
Okay. We got this.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I will say, we're getting tipsy-topsy. I will say, I don't hate the draft. I do wonder if anybody saw just our results, if they would think that we were all right. If they didn't know the process, you know what I mean?
If they didn't know the process, this is what Best Ball Twitter would say. They would go, "What does Baker Mayfield do for this team, bro?"
Yeah.
They would go, handcuffing your running backs. That's a no-no.
Yeah.
They'd go, Rashid Ali. That's way too cute. He's like the 4th running back at best on a Lamar Jackson offense. They'd say Rashid Shaheed at pick 90. Huge overreach, bro. What are you doing? That would be their comment. No, then they go Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks, but no Jordan Love. What are you doing? How do those guys pay off without Jordan Love, dude?
And make sure that you say that in the comments on Pete's YouTube channel, right?
Exactly.
Put it there in writing /S.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
I feel good. We scrolled down, got some heart picks, paid it forward and paid it backwards to Puka Nacua and Sam Laporta. You know what I mean?
Was it earlier this offseason? Did you buy a piece of Scroll the F Down merch?
Yes. And my husband does not like me having mugs and he uses it and it pisses me off because I'm like, if you don't want me getting mugs, don't use my mugs. He always goes for that one. He doesn't even know what it means.
He thinks it looks cool though?
He always uses it. I was going to use it today, but it was dirty because he used it this morning.
Wow, he's bogarted the Scroll the F Down mug.
Yes.
But you earned it with this Rashid Ali pick. That is a quintessential Scroll the F Down pick.
Well, there we go. I'll let him know he's no longer allowed.
This works out.
We did it.
Devontez Walker, the other rookie on Baltimore, it checks every box. You wanted the rookies. We get the correlation on the hats, and we also get the bring back to our CJ Stroud stack in week 17. It's CJ Stroud, it's Joe Mixon, it's Nico Collins, and on the back of these 2 rookies on the Ravens, total shootout game, easy game.
Yep. And I mean, look, I'm happy. I picked people that I love. I think we have a chance. I really do think we have a chance. How many hats?
Let's see.
1. Well, we're gonna remove them.
Yeah, hang on one sec. We'll do a ceremonial removal. Let me in. No, they don't want me. Let's get you. Here we go. All right. Get us the countdown.
Do you want to do like something fancy while I take them off? Like say players that come to mind?
Yeah, Rashid Ali and Devontez Walker, J.K. Dobbins and Kimani Vidal, Rico Dowdle for the Chicago. We have 2 Green Bay Packers, Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Dobbs. For the New Orleans Saints, we have Rashid Shaheed. For the Tampa Bay Bucks, we have Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, and Cade Otton. For the Kansas City Chiefs, we have Isaiah Pacheco. For the Detroit Lions, we have Sam Laporta. For the Houston Texans, we have CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, and Nico Collins. And last but not least, the man who started it all, Mr. Puka Nacua, the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, check out that forehead. It's not so bad, guys.
Standing ovation. I know I can't fact check you all on this. I need you all out of your feet or on your feet right now. Out of your feet. Please get rid of your feet and give Cooter Doodle a standing ovation for what she just accomplished here today.
And don't let us be censored. Just in your homes, wherever you are, in your car, in the library, just yell Cooter, really loudly. We won't be silenced.
Specifically if you have someone over fixing your fridge right now.
We won't be silenced.
How do you feel about this team, though?
I really feel okay about it. Again, I'm not tapped into the best ball world. I get that there's things that we could have done better, but I do not hate it.
I'm already hearing the whispers. I'm seeing the comments on Twitter. Is hat stacking the new meta? Is hat stacking the way to win best ball? It might be. This is what, there is a lot of groupthink in the best ball space, Cooter Doodle. And I think what you did today was innovative. I think you blazed a new trail. I think you invented a new meta. And I think we will look back on this stream, on this specific draft, as a seminal moment in best ball history.
Yeah. And you diversified. Stats, who gives a shit, right?
No, we don't. We don't give a shit. We care about correlation. We care about hats. And we care about getting guys who treated us right last year. Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing in my home draft.
Amanda, let the people know what you got cooking over at Fantasy Life. Are they able to audit one of your courses? What's the best way that they can get?
We've got a lot of articles coming out next month as well, but go check out fantasylife.com. I'm going to tell you how to blow up your drafts, tongue in cheek, to make sure you don't. A lot of articles, and then hopefully some videos coming up, and follow, subscribe, all the things Fantasy Life.
Yeah, and these, I will say, if you just have one new era hat on, very comfy, very cozy. I'm not personally feeling any strain with this hat on right now, Amanda.
Yeah, you could almost say you could probably wear like 8 to 10, no problem.
Okay. If you guys think you can beat the hat while streaming draft record, go ahead and do it. But don't draft a suboptimal team, because you're going to maybe try to get to 18 hats. Yeah, I don't know if you want to do that. That might not be smart from a correlation angle. Thank you guys for hanging out for this best ball breakfast block as usual. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to producer Mark. Thank you to Cooter Doodle, to Pat, to Shawn, and everyone else who makes this just a wonderful Monday tradition. Make sure you guys are, if you're new around here, subscribe to the channel. Check us out over on Fantasy Life. I'm writing the newsletter daily now throughout the week. We're ramping up. We got all kinds of content going. I'm going to be joining the Fantasy Life show with Ian tomorrow morning. If you want to watch me over there, we got ADP chasing later today at 4 p.m. on the Ship Chasing channel. Otherwise, we'll have our usual week of programming. Appreciate you guys. Go get your hats. Good luck out there correlating. We'll see you guys next time on Best Ball Breakfast.